Some of you might like to know a little bit more about our drummer.
Now going back to 40 years of Chick Webb.
Get that!
Is drummer right? Is it okay to say drummer?
Pounding his pulsing beat into the hearts of all America.
You motherfuckers are fucking all over this joint!
You do your kind of drumming, and I'll do my kind of drumming.
I have no more time. You don't know what I love to do.
The only things I care about in this goddamn life are me and my drums and you.
The official explanation was he choked on vomit.
You suppose maybe I could put the drums in your place and sort of drop in once in a while?
Now back to Gene Krupa's syncopated style shortly.
Get up there behind those drums, lean back, close your eyes, get right in the groove there, give it a good steady beat.
I got blisters on my fingers!
I get that.
I'm in Hollywood with Jeremy Stacey.
Hello. I'm in Hollywood too.
We're both in Hollywood.
I'm away from home.
Yeah, you are away from home. Where is home, Jeremy? Tell them where home is.
Home is London. Mm. It's been home for properly for about 30 years. I've been living in London. Although
you're 28, I thought. How is that possible?
Sorry?
You're 28 years old.
Yeah, I'm not, unfortunately. No, I didn't live in London as a child. Lived on the south coast of England, but
where?
A place called the more famous place is Bournemouth, which is south coast. It's by the sea, very cold sea.
Yeah,
as it is in England. The actual place I'm from is Poole, but there's a whole story to it because my parents were from London. They moved down to Bournemouth, and I'm adopted as well. So it's who knows where I'm from.
You don't know your background at all?
I don't know my background at all. So
okay.
Completely fun.
Now hold on a second. Since we're just like all over the place and today, famous narcoleptic.
I'm a famous narcoleptic, yeah. In fact, I've actually been asleep. No, I haven't been sleeping here for an hour, but I am quite famous as a narcoleptic. I think even on the last Noel record, there's a picture of my twin brother. I have a twin brother, Paul Stacey.
Right.
You may have heard of him. He and I were working with Noel, and we both fell asleep on the couch during the recording session, and he had his photographer there, and he managed to have a picture of him playing his guitar with us both asleep in the background.
I love it.
Which is somewhere on that cover of the first record. Unlike the new record, which has about the worst picture of my brother and I that I've ever seen. But
I have to see this now.
Yeah, no. Well, the middle spread of the CD is this thing, and
better to look on vinyl, I imagine. It's
massive. Yeah, it's on vinyl. But of course, my sister just took it one Christmas about 10 years ago. He happened to see it, liked it for whatever reason. But it's
and your brother has the affliction as well of. Is this certified narcolepsy, or is this just a?
No, it's not certified. I mean, okay, but yeah. I've woken up. You
can sleep anywhere.
I've woken up. I mean, I've fallen asleep, and probably upset some people that I've worked with over the years. But it's just, I just, if I remember or it happens early on, and I just say to people, look. And I'm just using the term narcolepsy because I don't really know what that is.
I like it. It's just a good word to say.
It just makes it sound like I've got something that's, it's a bit like, I have no attention span, but people have all these terms that they use and immediately like, oh, it's okay, he's got that thing.
Right.
It's not that he's not interested in what we're saying now. He only focuses on things that he's interested in.
See, they didn't have that in England when you were growing up. They didn't.
We didn't have any of these terms. It's like if you couldn't, immediately understand, learn to read and write. If you were dyslexic, let's say, you weren't dyslexic. You were just an idiot and you used to get slapped around.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Things have changed.
Things have changed a bit, and so now you can just get away with anything. So, me falling asleep. If I'm either bored or I'm just overtired, narcolepsy.
It's an affliction.
It's a very, very useful term.
Yeah, it is a very.
Gets me out of a lot of trouble. I wish I'd had it I think I actually got fired from a gig, which I got back, but I got fired from a gig for falling asleep in the dressing room 5 minutes before we went on stage. And
why? Because you didn't show your gusto and energy for the gig.
They showed my enthusiasm for the gig.
Yeah, they were offended.
I was enthusiastic.
Is it anyone we know?
It was, but yes.
We were not going to say it.
The name will come up further on in time, but I might bring it back in as part of the story.
But that's a great. You were literally fired for that reason.
Oh no, I was fired probably for answering back, which I also can sometimes have been known to do. But
now you were saying when you got here, you were saying we're in Hollywood. You used to, when you first got out here, you were living around the corner.
Well, I stayed around the corner for a little bit. I worked with Jason Faulkner, who plays with Beck now. He was in the band called Jellyfish, and the first band. Basically, I had a big change in my life where I suddenly completely turned around musically on where I was. And got back into playing with bands. I was around 27 when that happened. Up to that point, I was kind of not lost, but I was playing a lot of jazz. I was into jazz and fusion and funk and all those things that drummers seem to get into when not when they start out necessarily, but that was where my head was at, and it still is very much so. But I saw a band and I went, what am I doing? This is great. I got to get into this.
What band was it?
It was a band called World Party, an English band called World Party. Carl Wallinger, who I ended up playing with at some points. A very good friend of mine, Chris Sharrock, was playing the drums at the time. Chris Sharrock is the drummer who plays with BDI. He played with Oasis before that. He was obviously in World Party, but he did the Robbie Williams gig, which I also did some recordings with. He was the live drummer for that during the really big period of Robbie in England.
Was he before you with Robbie, or you? How did that,
he was. Well,
did he get you the gig with Robbie?
No. I never played with Robbie live. I just did some of the records. I did a lot of studio stuff. So basically, this is how I have to tell the story. I was, there's a whole period that we haven't even covered, but I was with some band. I don't know what age I was 25, 26. And in Amsterdam, and this tour manager was like, oh, I used to tour manage this band, World Party, you've got to come and see them, they're great. And I was like, really? It was of little interest to me. I'd never heard of them because I wasn't really into bands so much.
You were really into jazz.
I was into music and jazz and listening to Steve Gadd and I love all that stuff too. And Steve Gadd obviously played on some of the great singer-songwriters, but I wasn't listening to music weirdly in that way. I was listening as a musician and absorbing drumming styles and just absorbing, like we do. But I think what happened is that I've always listened to music as a separate thing from playing the drums. So when I sit down and listen to music, I don't listen to the drummer. I don't listen to, what's that guitar lick? I don't listen to any of that stuff. I just listen to the whole thing. And that's really my favourite thing of listening to music. I think most people agree with that.
Yes.
But my focus was somewhere else up to that point. And I saw this band, World Party. Carl Wallinger, Guy Chambers, who ended up being the writer for Robbie Williams, was the keyboard player. Chris Sharrock on drums. He used to play with the Lars and Icicle Works. Great drummer. And just a really brilliantly musical gig. Jeff Trott on guitar. Jeff Trott, who co-wrote all the great songs with Sheryl Crow. So basically, there was this one gig I saw, and I just did a whole U-turn and a whole rethink of everything, of how I was playing, and I didn't do it consciously. I just went, I love this music. I love this. This is great. Not even taking on board of the influences that this band had at the time, which was really the Beatles, the Stones, Beach Boys, Bowie, all that stuff, which I had listened to through my childhood and teens, but I'd never really taken much. I hadn't taken much notice of it, which I find it's kind of incredible that I didn't. I've always thought that I've come to things very weird at weird times. You know, some people would say you come to things late, and you know,
right.
But that happened for me then, and I wanted to be in World Party. I was just like, I love this. And then I was playing it to people. Going, have you checked this band? They were going, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I mean, this is the Beatles. You know, don't you hear the Beatles in this? So I'm like, yeah. Well, I used to listen. You know, so I said, well, listen to this, and they play me stuff, and my whole interest in music changed over in a year. It just changed overnight, and I had every Beatles record, every Zeppelin record, every Bowie record. Yeah, and I just started getting into songs and songwriters, and that drumming approach, which of course is playing the song and not playing for, not, I hate to say not playing for oneself, but it's a completely different attitude of. The way I like to look at it, the great drummers to me who play songs, Ringo, you know, the list goes on, is that they're amazingly transparent in the music as far as listening to the song, but what they're doing is always interesting, but it's not taking attention away from the song. So that for me is, and you know, and I hadn't worked that out at that time, but that's what I find interesting now. It's like Jim Cartney. You listen to Jim Cartney, he's always playing incredibly interesting, non-obvious drum parts, but somehow you don't end up listening to it. It's just merging into the song and making the song special and interesting, but not taking the attention away from the singer. So, I mean, as I say, all this stuff we all know, but that was my realisation at that point. Yeah, 27, quite late. Most guys are already doing that when they're young, but I think I just, you know, I was listening to Weather Report when I was 13 years old, and Genesis and Yes and all those bands, and you know, I love all that music still to this day, but it's just it's a different thing.
Yeah.
So that happened. 6 months after I got into World Party, I get a call from Guy Chambers, who's the keyboard player, saying, I'm forming this new band, and I've heard about you. Would you, you know, can I come and see you play, or can we meet up? And I was doing a gig the next day, so he came and saw it, and we ended up doing some recording. Started this band called the Lemon Trees, which really wasn't the greatest. It didn't end up being the greatest band of its time. It was an early 90s band, but it was a band getting back into, you know, coming out of the 80s period, going back to, you know, more, I suppose, Beatle-y influenced approach to music, you know, and of course that's what in the 90s where Oasis and Blur and all those bands.
A little ahead of your time.
I think we may have been before them. I always love to remind Noel.
This is my point.
I like to remind Noel, you know, that the Lemon Trees did actually start. We started Britpop, and
did Noel? I mean, well, no. That's a good question. Though. Did Noel?
And he knows that this.
Was he a fan of the Lemon Trees?
No.
Did he say like I never heard of them?
I think he'd heard of them, and I think we were.
He hated the Lemon Trees.
That's a mild. It would be a lot. It would be much more.
A load of shite, perhaps.
Yeah.
Would that be something he'd say?
Probably a bit worse.
He's a crusty bastard, isn't he?
Well, you know, he's my employer. I can't say anything. Oh, you can say what you like.
Can.
You say what you like.
He's a crusty bastard, but we love him for that. Come on, isn't that one of the reasons we love him?
He's a straight talker.
That's what we like.
Yeah,
that's what we like.
Yeah. So that band's, but what was interesting about all this is what I find fascinating about life is that you find yourself in situations where you go, I'm not sure why this is happening, but something is occurring that is moving me into a circle of a different area. And you see, that was the other thing, is at the time, I suppose, all my interest in the type of music that I was interested in, the friends that I had at that time, all were going, what are you listening to this for? Because I'd suddenly got back into the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and I was telling everybody, do you not realise how amazing this stuff is? And those musicians weren't into that stuff at that time. I think a lot of them probably are now, because that music just came back round. But at the time, everybody thought I'd gone a little bit mad, which I probably had, to be honest. But I just obsess over things. I get into something, I start obsessing over it, and I really do, try and research it a little bit. And
don't you have to be obsessive to get good at any instrument?
You know what? You probably have to be obsessive and a complete egomaniac to do anything.
That's what I
mean. When do you really meet? I mean, I think every musician or hero I've ever met in music or acting or in art, you can always tell that these people are forces of nature. They're not somebody who's going to come along.
How do you put your 10,000 hours in, or more, if you're not being obsessive?
Exactly. How many hours was that?
We're at 8.5. You mentioned acting. You studied acting?
Oh, you've been checking me out.
I heard some things.
No, I did study acting. That was what I studied.
This was the original plan.
I don't know if it was the original plan.
Because this was right after school. You were 17, 18?
Again, this is you look at the way things occur.
Yes.
And you go, how did that happen? Why did I choose to do that when I was young? Or why did my parents say, push me, because you go, why? I did tap dancing when I was young, for instance.
Okay.
I did a lot of dancing, but I did tap dancing.
Great background for a drummer.
And then you find out that I think Steve Garrett did tap dancing, Buddy Rich tap dancing, and
Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, well,
and I'm just saying his name because why not?
No, but it's true, and you go, but why did I do that? I don't remember thinking I want to do that, but I did it, and you always go and think, well, that was probably, I don't know whether it was useful or not, but it seems like it may have been. And the same with the acting. I had a sort of upbringing of my parents had a theatre background.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what? Like they were actors?
Well, my mother was in, she used to she had small parts in films in the 50s, and she went to a stage school, as they called in
RADA
in England. Not RADA. Well, RADA's an acting school. Stage school is under 16 school where kids end up being in movies, or they might even be stars. But then it's a place for kids who are from that background. They say I didn't go to that a stage school till I was 13 years old, and when I did, it was the best thing ever. I just wish I'd gone to.
This is where you went to school from 13.
London at 13 to 17. I moved to London. My brother and I moved to London. Went to stage school.
So you were just immersed in the acting world.
Well, I was around people. I mean, it was I'd come from Bournemouth, which was like a much safer sort of place. Suddenly, I'm in London. We're in the 70s, which was not a safe place at all. I mean, it's feels much safer now.
It's like Taxi Driver New York, 70s.
It was 70s London was not a friendly place. I mean, you watched your back everywhere. You get on the bus in the morning and you'd just be, there was a lot of. It was a pretty rough.
Did you run into trouble?
I ran away from trouble.
Good.
But I saw trouble and I ran as hard as I could, and I pretty much avoided. I never got myself into any serious. I mean, I might have got punched a couple of times,
sure.
but I would be running as it was happening. Do you know what I mean? But it was going on all the time, regularly. There was fighting going on all the time. And yeah, it was a very different place, a very poor place at that time, and it wasn't. London wasn't expensive back then. It was very run down,
right.
And so. So I was there, but it was amazing because suddenly I was at school. Everybody was into music. Everybody was, it was just a fun, creative thing that was going on.
Now, is this like a Shakespearean kind of background?
No, that school was not. That was. I mean, they. Yes, you learned Shakespeare. You learned also. You learned fencing.
This is what I was going to get. Was it?
You had to do fencing.
The British approach of, say, I mean, I know the American style was more method, inside out. English style being more put the get the outfit on, learn the walk, get the voice right.
Get the Olivier voice, yes.
Yes, the Olivier.
Which obviously, as you can hear, it's still clearly quite.
But you know a monologue or two. Come on.
I don't even start asking me to do it. I mean,
I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just saying you know a monologue.
I could use my chest resonator and I'm not going to do it. But
right.
Of course.
You know who Heathcliff is. You know these things.
Yeah, I know. I've done a little bit of.
So were you?
I can do a bit of Hamlet.
I'm sure you could. I'm sure.
So no, we did that, but it wasn't. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't. I couldn't act, and when I went to the stage school. When I left the stage school, I couldn't act.
What do you mean you couldn't act?
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I mean, they didn't really. I think at that point, I think you get to a point where you become self-conscious as a teenager. I think in England, I think that you become self-conscious, and that is when acting training. You have to. That's what you have to learn is how to overcome self-consciousness.
Were you putting on productions in the school? Was that?
Oh yeah, we did also. I mean, musical, everything. I mean, so all that stuff. So you had to do everything. You had to dance. You had to sing. You had to do all
Alexander technique.
Well, but this is what I'm saying is I did that school. I went back home. I started playing in hotels. I'd started playing when
as
I was
a drummer.
I started playing piano when I was young. So I'm just going to do this as a quick.
Do it.
I studied piano for a little bit, classical piano. Was never really into classical, which I am now. I absolutely love classical. It's some of my favourite music to listen to. But at the time I wasn't. I just wanted to be. I actually kind of wanted to play jazz, I think, really. Mm-hmm. But again, I wasn't really into jazz at that point. So did a load of piano. Which again, I'm so thankful that I got sent to piano lessons. That was probably the best thing that ever happened as far as musical education, because it's the only musical education I've really ever had.
Yeah, and it stuck with you. And
it's always been there. I know enough about harmony, and I'm a terrible sight reader.
You know what B flat means?
I know what a B flat is.
You know what I mean?
I know, but I know what a B flat minor seventh is. I can hear what a B flat minor seventh is, and I can hear what a major seventh. I can hear what a major. I can hear. Yeah, Is
D minor really the saddest key of all the keys?
E flat minor? No,
D minor.
No,
D minor.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying E flat minor might be a bit sadder.
Now, hang on.
It's only one up. But.
Now, hold on a second. When you were done with this school, I want to go back to this. This is important. I
told you.
This is fascinating.
See, I've been darting around all over the place.
All the drummers are like, talk about. I want to talk about this for a second.
I don't want to talk about drum. I fucking hate drums.
Listen, you were 17. You finished that school. Had you done auditions and whatnot? Had you worked professionally as an actor?
I'd worked professionally as an actor when I was 9. I did adverts.
Stage.
A little bit of TV, early 70s TV in England. I'm not going to mention any names if people want to go look.
Benny Hill?
No, it was not Benny Hill. But what was great is that I remember going to the TV studio. This is when I was the second time, when I think it was 10 or 11, to do this series. We were doing this series. It was quite a controversial series at the time. My brother and I, twin. The great thing about being a twin is that I probably got more work, even though I was a lousy actor,
right.
Because it's like, hey, we've got twins. You know.
We can work them.
I did actually audition for Omen 2, believe it or not.
For which one?
For Omen 2. Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't get it. But they liked the idea of, if we use twins, if we run out of time, because there's only a period of time that you can use child actors, then we've got the other one. We can just fit him in for,
That's what they do, and that's standard now.
No, so that was, but I didn't have a clue. Didn't have a clue about acting. I've never had a clue about many things. I never felt that I've been very good.
So are you saying that at that point you just kind of knew, like, this isn't for me?
Well, this was the thing. I went back home at 17 going, I don't know what I'm going to do. And moved back home at 17, which is weird, after being away from home from 13.
Come on, I've heard at 28. I mean, it's not that bad moving back home at 17.
So I just went home and I went, what am I going to do? I went on the dole, which is in England.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Let's just take money from everybody else and sit at home, and have fun. But of course, you get restless. Fortunately, where I lived, I was able to set up a drum kit and a studio at home. And my brother and I just woke up, listened to music, and played. Every day. I'd transcribe things. I had a Porter studio, one of the first Porter studios. We'd record things. Then I really got into recording. So it was still all happening then. I was really into recording. But recording for me was 2 mics in a Porter studio and some keyboards, just messing around, trying things, even trying to copy things off. It was just, that was me educating myself for myself. I had a couple of drum lessons. There was a couple of drum teachers. There's a guy called Andy Leask who was doing the shows down in Bournemouth. They have a lot of, they have pantomime. You know what pantomime is. And they'd have a drummer, and he needed somewhere to stay, and my parents had connections in the theatre, so they'd hear about my parents, and then my parents would say, oh yeah, come and stay at ours, and instead of paying, give our son drum lessons. So I'd have I had an 8-week period with this guy Andy, and guess what, he was taught by Jim Chapin, and he's still now considered the molar guy in the UK. So I had 8 weeks of this guy. Now he knew that I was not a student. I'd never practiced. I still to this day am ashamed of the lack of practice of rudiments. I probably can't play the 26 rudiments, which, if you think about it, for somebody who's obsessed with music as I am, it's kind of, I can't believe that I can admit it to myself that I can't really play the 26
Can I ask
rudiments.
you a question about that? I remember reading somewhere Ginger Baker talking about to get into the Musicians Union back in his day. I mean, obviously he's a lot older, but the point was you had to play.
You had to hit somebody over the head with a
that too.
with a stick.
Well, yeah, there was a way. Right. There was a boxing match, 6 rounds, and then.
Yeah.
But you also had to play all 26 rudiments.
Right. Really?
Yeah. You never heard about that, yeah?
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, that's what he claimed. So obviously that wasn't around when you were...
There was nothing around. You didn't have to do anything. There was no school. I didn't have a school. All I did was...
But you learned that molar. You got that molar.
Well, I did, and it's weird. Also, Andy Lisk, I was 13 when he came, just before I'd moved to London. It was just before I moved to London. And he brought down about 10 records with him. Because it was, of course, we've all listened to records there. He bought Bob James Heads. I don't know if you know Bob James Heads, with Steve Gadd and Andy Newmark on it. He bought George Benson Breezing and In Flight with Harvey Mason on it. He bought Buddy Rich West Side Story, the 66. He bought a Tom Scott record which had John Guerin and Jim Gordon on it. And at that point, I'd been listening to The Sweet. Right. I don't remember the band The Sweet. Mark Bolan, T-Rex, Slade, Mud. There was a band called Mud. You guys would have never heard of them, but it was kind of it was all glam rock. There was a little bit of Bowie in there. That's what I'd listened to, and I kept listening to it and thinking. I think in my mind I wanted more, and that sounds like the most strange thing to say, but. I was sort of fascinated. As soon as I heard Steve Gadd, basically, I heard Asia as well. I went, oh my God, this is my. That's when my interest. I still to this day, I think the moment I heard Steve Gadd, that's when I really knew that I wanted to be a drummer. And even though I'd seen drums and I wanted to be a drummer, I didn't know why I wanted to be a drummer. When I heard Steve Gadd, I understood something about drumming that I just went, I love that. And it's weird, I was that young and it was that type of drumming that got me. And then I started, every record I could find by Steve Gadd, I'd buy. Every record with Andy Newmark, I'd buy. Harvey Mason, Billy Cobham, Lenny White, Narada Michael Walden. Those were the drummers that were that was the Peter Erskine, early Weather Report, Peter Erskine, Chester Thompson. Then I went to the school. Everybody was into Genesis and Yes. So it was Bill Bruford, who I now is, he's
a friend.
He is a friend, and Andy Newmark actually lives in London now. So I know all these guys, and it's
how cool is that?
It's the coolest thing ever.
You just asking questions.
Yeah, but I remember seeing Bruford and Brand X when I was 16 years old in London. Brand X, and Mike Clark was playing Brand X at that point.
Does Bruford play at all anymore?
I think he's kind of. I don't know if he's retired, but
I thought he was. That's why I'm asking.
He said he announced his retirement, and I actually called him and said, "Don't stop, don't stop." What? And he was. I think Bill wants to do something else other than what he does. Perhaps, maybe that's a bit.
Well, I just meant, do you know if he's playing, like literally?
I heard that he was, but I don't think it's. I'd heard that he was playing with a guitar player, a friend of mine, that he started talking about. I mean, I can't imagine somebody who's into music as much as he is, because he's into really interesting. You know, he would stop completely. He probably thinks he wants to stop, and then I hope he doesn't. But I still think that, you know, I mean, you listen to Close to the Edge. The drumming on that record's, I think, fantastic. And yeah, I loved his early stuff. But I even, you know, so that was the sort of music I was listening to.
But this is it. So in other words, at that 17, right, 18.
Well, no, this was earlier. I was listening, you know, 13.
No, but I'm saying when you were saying Gad and you had this moment and you went, this is.
That was 13. That was 13.
So. That's what I'm saying. I thought, so we're 13 to 17, you're doing the acting thing.
Well, I was at the school, but everybody was into Genesis, and one of my dear friends to this day.
Just to clarify, go ahead. One of your good friends.
This dear friend to this day said to me, he said, he was the biggest Genesis nut. He was a great drummer, great guitar player, great singer, and my brother and I sort of hooked onto him. We became really close friends. Still my one friend from that school, still to this day, is a guy called Dorian Healy. He still does acting and all sorts of things. But we became really close friends, and we just lived. I mean, every day after school, I'd go back to his. He played me Mr. Gone, that record. I'd never heard Mr. Gone, and Tony Williams was playing drums on that, and I'd never heard Tony Williams, and I was like. And it's Tony Williams playing on Mr. Gone. It's not regular. It's not kind of.
Right.
It's kind of the later Tony thing, you know, the 70s Tony thing, which is completely different to me to what he was doing in the 60s. Gad's on that record. Erskine's on that record. So I was listening to that. So, and it's like anything. You know, all that area of music. I was just trying to find. So I was buying every. Weather Report. I say I was buying every Weather Report record. Obviously, I didn't have a lot of money back then, so you were just grabbing any little thing that you could. Mm-hmm. And then I heard about Stuff, and then obviously the Paul Simon thing. Then when I got home with 17, that's when video players had just come out. Remember, there were no video players. You caught something on TV.
Remember Beta?
That's what I had. Betamax.
Betamax.
That's what we had.
Yeah.
We had a Betamax, or Betamax, as we say in England. Video player, and I remember Paul Simon Live at the Tower came on. I don't know if you know that concert.
Yes, I do.
Which one of my favourites of Gad, and I recorded it. I saw that it was like, I didn't know what it was going to be like. I recorded it, and then I had an hour of watching and seeing Steve Gadd play, which
because there were good camera angles on Gadd.
It was amazing, and he played amazing on that show. And then you know the Grover Washington. There's a clip of him playing Grover Washington. I was collecting all these clips. I was recording every old grey whistle test, and you know, for everybody from Cozy Powell playing drums to. So I was just now had this system where I could tape on, you know, a visual thing of drummers. Life changing. I mean, absolutely life changing. At that point, I mean, it's nothing. I mean, if you think of the access kids have now to everything, I mean,
bastards.
It's incredible. I mean, but then you see, I wonder now, because everything's there.
I know.
Is it the same as...
We didn't have all the answers.
Do you know what? I used to go to we didn't have any answers. I mean, you'd go to a shop and you'd spend hours looking through records.
You wondered.
Go, this record is a Japanese import and it's £20. And I've got £20 for this week to last me for the whole week. Yeah. But I'm going to buy this record, fucking weird Dave Grusin record with Harvey Mason on it. Yeah. And you take it home and you go, it sucks. I don't like it. Maybe, you know, but that's what I was. That's what I was experiencing back then. So just trying to grab whatever I could to inspire me. Not rock and roll, though. Not that. I mean, Genesis was about as rock and roll as it got for me, I suppose, back then, which is kind of incredible. And then I started listening. I mean, my background for listening to music's quite.
But again, so I mean, I want to move on, but I just to establish once again, just for You went to this acting school. You knew all along, though, this wasn't for you. You knew.
Well, check this out. This is what happened. I got home, 17 to 21. I was in Bournemouth, playing in different bands, doing hotel gigs, playing in funk bands, sort of funk bands is a bit of a strong term, but I was just playing around. I became one of the drummers in the scene, one of the guys in Bournemouth. And then one of the guys in Bournemouth said, I've got this job, do you fancy doing it? Working on the ships for 5 months in Miami. The ship drummer, in other words, you have to do all the acts that come on. You have to do this big show at the end of the week. I had this was a professional job. I had never done. I'd done hotel gigs. I was getting good at doing hotel gigs. We'd have people come down. You'd have the odd start. You'd have to back. My reading was terrible, but I kind of got through it because I had done piano. Right. I knew what the thing. Sight reading was terrible. Right. I can read music. I just can't.
But again, piano.
But the sight reading's a whole different thing. You have to.
True. Yeah.
So I decided to do this job on the ships. So
was there a contract? Was it 6 months?
Oh yeah, 5 months.
Yeah.
And it was going round Cuba, basically. We go to Jamaica once a week. You go to Jamaica, Grand Cayman, Cozumel, back up to Miami.
Do it all over.
Every week for 5 months. So the first week was, of course, a disaster. I couldn't. They basically told me I had a week to get it together, or I was off the ship. And I was 21, and I was literally had nothing in my learning experience had prepared me for this type of professional job.
Yeah, how do you get it together?
Well, what I did, I just was really honest with them. I said, look, first thing was that I did some sort of some comedy duo, who very old-fashioned style comedy duo, and they wanted after every gag you play, but different types of ones for different types of gags. And they said, "Oh, we'll just cue you," assuming that that I understand the humour, which I didn't, because I'm English.
Is it American humour?
Yeah, and it was, it was Florida, It was
Florida humour.
Well, I wasn't, I hadn't even watched lots of American shows. I was just suddenly I'm in this place. It's almost like I'm having to deal with the whole language barrier. Culture shock, everything. I'm on a ship. I'm on my own, away from my twin brother, who I'd grown up with. No family, no mobile phone, no.
Hold on. Let's take a minute. So did you just hate it? What did you think of?
I loved. everything. I was in heaven because
you loved it.
I'd never left. This is the first time I'd ever been on a plane.
I was going to say, a lot of sunshine for a guy from
a lot of sunshine, a lot of humidity.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Suddenly you're on a boat.
And you like this?
A boat in the rough.
A real boat.
A big fucking boat. With very choppy seas.
And you like this stuff?
To start with, I loved it because it was just, everything couldn't be more different. And I had watched a load of films. By that point, it wasn't just music we were checking out. My brother and I were watching, we were really into the American films. I was into De Niro, Pacino, Nicholson. This was
so the itch was still there.
So what happened is the method acting.
Yeah.
I was going, this is what acting is. Yeah. What I've done before is nonsense.
Right.
This is what I want to learn about.
Right.
And so I was obsessing about everything from there. Get on this ship. I'm not up to it. I asked this comedy duo. I said, "Have you got a tape of your act?" And they went, "We have a cassette of our act. We've got a cassette from our favourite drummer doing the act." I said, "Can I borrow it?" Because they said the next day they were really brutal with me. They were just like, you shouldn't be doing this job. Who the hell? They were really unkind to me.
They were older.
Oh, they were 70. 60s, 70s. So
Okay.
They had some interesting wigs. That sort of Buddy Rich wig thing.
Totally.
Sorry. Okay.
Beautiful.
Anyway,
beautiful.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
They gave me the tape. I sat down, listened to it, and I understood immediately what I was supposed to do, which is how I've learnt everything, from listening. One listen, I went, okay, now I understand. I had no idea. I did the show the next week, and they were literally laughing and turning around at me, and they went, "The kid's done his homework." They were suddenly sort of...
Yeah.
So it was just one of those. So I suddenly I was great. They loved me, and they were super nice to me from that point on. But what happened is that sometimes acts would come on, and I didn't, from Buddy Greco to I'm trying to remember all the different things that I did. I mean, there was a lot of people that came on, and so you got to be able to play this stuff.
Yeah.
And if I was sight reading, I was in trouble. I would always just say to them, "Look, reading's not my thing. If you've got a tape," and sometimes they didn't, because I was doing it every day, all the time. Suddenly, I just got the hang of it, and I remember. There was one guy on, and again, you have these little things where you go, I really learnt something here that has always stayed with me. I was sitting on the beach in Grand Cayman, and I realised that one of the guys, I think it was the Four Aces, was there. And they'd get one of their guys to come and play drums on 2 songs. They played New York, New York. And I just turned around to him and I said, why don't you let me play on New York, New York? I need to know why.
Yeah.
You're the Four Aces, and suddenly you're the Three Aces with one of you playing the drums. What's going on here? Why do you do that? And he said, because you're not up to it, kid. I mean, that's what it's just like these old guys.
Huh.
Kid, you're not up to it. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not up to it? I want to know why I'm not up to it. And they said, listen, when you play this music, you gotta make the singer sound good. They just did.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to drive the feel of the tune to make it work. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And I said, okay. I said, well, I've obviously listened to the song. He's, I know New York, New York. I think I know how to play it. He said, well, we did that first rehearsal and you didn't have a clue, so that's why you didn't play it. I said, will you let me do it? And he went, we got a rehearsal tomorrow, right? I said, yeah. He said, okay, well, let's. If you can pull it off, I'll let you play it on the show. And he did. I mean, it's nothing, but I just remember that he actually said to me he just explained to me what I had to do. As I say, maybe people get taught that in school, but I hadn't had any
That's where
education.
You learn that.
And I just went, okay. And in a funny sort of way, I think I've always, from that point, gone. If you listen to the singer, that's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else. You just listen and react to them. Then it's probably you're probably going to do as close to the right thing for them that you can do.
Yeah,
that's my.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember that as a key little turning point of that's what I'm going to do. So anyway. I get home. My brother from this Miami trip. My brother has
5 months. You do 5 months.
5 months. He's enrolled at an acting school, a method acting school in London, the method acting school.
Strasbourg.
Well, check this out. It's called the Drama Centre. It's not there anymore. It's not. It is, but it's run by different people. But it had the teacher who's passed away, unfortunately, a guy called Reuven Adiv, who was Strasbourg's assistant at the Actors Studio. He was one of the teachers there. We had a guy from who actually I heard recently, I think I heard about a couple of years ago, Kate Blanchett said that she I don't know whether she based her technique, but she was interested in the technique of this guy called Jaap Mulgrim, who was a Swedish guy who was taught, who was involved with the Ingmar Bergman School of Acting. He was one of the principals at the school. And then there was an English guy called Christopher Fettis who was into the English style. He taught at RADA. I'm trying to remember who the person that his method was based on, but it was still, they were all method guys, English, European and American. Amazing school. Lots of great actors went to that school and were taught by them. Anthony Hopkins was before Drama Centre taught by I think he was taught by Christopher. Fantastic. But anyway, I had to go to that school too. So I auditioned. Signed up. My brother signed up. He'd gone a year before me. I went, auditioned, got in. I went there too.
What was your audition piece?
It was. I think we had to do a modern piece and an old piece, and the old piece was John Ford's "'Tis Pity She's a Whore."
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
Know that play?
Yeah.
So I did that, and of course, then suddenly I'm enrolled in this place of madness. I mean, it was
Sense Memory.
Sense Memory.
Yeah.
Private Moment.
Private Moments. Relax the jaw. Sit back. Right.
What was the other? Sense Memory. Private Moments. What's the other one? Emotional Memory.
Emotional Recall.
Emotional. Yep. All that stuff. Singing exercise.
Yeah.
You know, singing exercise.
Hang on.
But you see, I would say my brother continued acting after he left drama school. I left drama school early for all sorts of reasons.
After what? 6 months? A year? What?
Year and a half. I did a year and a half. But
you
year
said
and a
this
half,
is bullshit,
can I say,
right?
Year and a half. That year and a half changed my life beyond just about anything.
Why?
Many reasons. I mean, I went through emotional turmoil during that period. Lots of things, relationship issues. Also, I think when you start delving into, because we did a lot of relaxation exercises. What happens? Started doing relaxation exercises. Had always feared anything, outside of the norm, and I suddenly was going, it's really interesting what's happening with the mind when you relax, when you start concentrating. So I started getting interested in other matters, i.e. meditation, and I really got into meditation after I went to the drama centre for about 15 years. Buddhist meditation. I did a thing called Vipassana meditation for about 15 years. I don't do it anymore.
Were you studying Buddhism at the time?
I actually...
So you just, this is right, I already get, you go full in.
I go full in.
When you get into something.
If I get into full... I go full in, but I don't do it properly.
What's proper though?
Well, I don't do it the way that I'm supposed to do it. It's like I'm fully into drumming. I can't play the 26th rhythms. That's fucked up. Come on, it's fucked up. And I hate myself for not doing it. I'm obviously not interested in it.
Yeah.
And yet, all my favourite drummers write. I mean, I am obsessed, and we can go into this. With the whole New York thing that's going on with drummers.
The current thing, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed. I mean, I'll never be able to play like these guys, but Marcus Gilmore,
right?
Mark Juliana, Dan Weiss. Do you know Dan Weiss?
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit! I mean, it's enough. Zach Dan. I mean, I'm friends with most of these guys. They just completely.
Most of the people listening right now will never come close to those guys.
No.
So
I will never come close.
It's okay.
I will never come close to those guys. I mean, I can maybe do different things that they can't do. I don't know. I don't even care.
Yeah.
All I know is that they have changed my interest. I mean, once I discovered this scene, and again, you see, I ended up playing with Sheryl Crow, as you know, for like almost 10 years. And so I got to come to America a lot during 2000 to 2010 on a regular basis. I was spending 4 to 6 months in this country, and I'd be in New York for days on end, either doing a TV or we'd be recording. And as soon as I'd finish work, I'd be straight down and checking out the 55 Bar and all those places.
Yeah.
And then get to meet these, it's like I'd start going to see the Wayne Krantz gig with Keith Carlock.
Sure.
Tim
55
McFadden,
Bar.
55 Bar. Never seen anything like those guys. And then Keith ended up playing with Sting, and my best friend Jason Rebello, who I'd been playing with since the early 90s, was the keyboard player in that band. So I ended up meeting Keith. And then Keith came to a Sheryl Crow gig, and then he said to Wayne, "Have you seen this guy play?" I mean, I don't know what he thought, but he just. So I just got to know these people and meet them, and that's been a whole nother area of music that's been very interesting and inspiring.
A sort of a New York life.
Yeah.
You have an LA life.
Yeah.
Obviously, London life.
And a lot of these things don't connect with each other. I know a lot of musicians here who probably are not.
They don't
cross over or interested in that whole scene that's going on. And I love, this is the problem I've always had. I love, Tony Williams, Elvis. I mean, if you sit here listening to the drummers that I love, we might be here for like 4 hours. But what I find incredible is that sometimes these things don't mix and match, within the circles. But for me, they are. Yeah. I love them all as much as each other, and I can sit and listen to Levon Helm and you know, just totally dig his drumming as much as, you know, I could sit down and listen to, I don't know, Billy Cobham.
Right.
But I don't know if a lot of people find that they would go between those two, let's say. But for me, it's a no-brainer. I love it all. Another thing I have to say, when I got to London when I was 21 and started going to this drama school, I managed to do this really quite high-profile gig in London at a band called Morrissey Mullen. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Morrissey Mullen was Jim Mullen, who's still around. He's an incredible guitar player. He used to play with the Average White Band, and one of their records has Steve Ferroni playing drums on it. But the guys in London who were, you know, sort of top of their game at that point were doing that gig. So I was just going to gigs and seeing who was playing. Didn't know anything much about the jazz scene. I was just new again in London after being at home for 4 years, going to this drama school and trying to find some music to go and see when I wasn't at the school. And I managed to go to this gig, and Jim had seen me play somewhere else and asked me to do this gig. I did the gig. I ended up going down to this jazz club called the 606, and my whole world changed as when I went down the 606 Jazz Club, because all my heroes were going down there all the time, and suddenly I was hanging out with them and playing with them, i.e. Gary Husband. Gary Husband would go down to 606 every night, play piano, play drums, and I'd be like, I'd seen him play with Holdsworth when I was 17, and suddenly I'm hanging out with him and getting to know him and watching him play and playing with it. I play with Gary loads of times when he played piano. Which is terrifying. I mean, he's terrifying, but it was a great experience for me to suddenly be, you know, thrown into this whole other thing. Again, a whole other area of music that doesn't always, you know, I mean, I know so many people, and you mentioned Holdsworth, and they might go, do you like that stuff? And it's like, I do. But then I love Bob Dylan. You know, it's like, why do you have to not like, you know, why can't you just like everything for what it is and see, you know, but or why should you like it? You don't have to like it. I can't help it, but I've listened to all these things and they all get me in different ways.
Yeah. You mentioned though that okay, so you that year and a half at school, and you realized changed your life, but you knew you were falling into this world. It sounds like you were just getting kind of sucked in.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's an obsessive thing. You threw yourself in, and then boom, you're just in this world. By the way, I never use notes. I don't use notes. And then here.
Now you've just picked them up. Does that mean
I did? I picked up a sheet.
Are you stuck? Are we?
No. I wanted to brag for you because I wanted to just throw some names out.
Right.
So people, I mean, Echo and the Bunnymen, Amy Winehouse, Chris Robinson, Sheryl Crow, Joe Cocker, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Clapton, Wayne Krantz, Steve Hackett, Robbie Williams, Ben Montench, Ryan Adams, Neil Diamond, Noel Gallagher now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we're gonna.
Tom Jones.
Tom Jones. I left some names off. This is about 40%.
Come on.
That's about 40% of your. Tom Jones. I mean, come on. That's got to be one of the ones you're most proud of stuff.
Well, Tom Jones was just an incredible. I mean, that was a double whammy because I'd met Ethan Johns in LA when he was here with John Bryan.
Oh, okay.
I got to meet John Bryan, who I was a massive fan of, and then I met Ethan. I didn't know anything about Ethan at the time. This is late 90s. And then I started hearing some of the records that he'd done, thinking, oh, this guy's really good, you know. And then he moved back to England, and through an A&R man that I'd worked on the Robbie stuff, and I'd also done the Finn Brothers, the guys from Crowded House, done a tour with them. I toured with them for a year. That A&R man had recommended me, and Ethan said, "Oh yeah, I've met that guy. I saw him play. He did see me play one night with Chris Robinson." So he called me and it's kind of record but audition for Tom. And it was just Tom, Ethan, and myself. And sitting in a room about just a little bigger than the one we're in now, all in one room together. So I had to play drums, obviously, very, very quietly, with Tom standing right next to me and Ethan playing guitar, just guitar, drum, and vocal. And interestingly, the first thing that we attempted, because Tom's manager, Mark Woodward, who's the greatest guy, just fantastic character and very funny guy, but I didn't know him. I was, just turn up, just a little bit, you're obviously a little bit nervous of what we doing here, what we're going to do. And they told me they would, the style of music, they said, it's going to be like the old Sun records, we're going to do it the old way, and it's going to be old style gospel blues, which, I'm not super versed in. I listened to some of it, but so I was starting to listen to stuff, and I was just thinking, what kit am I going to take down? And so you probably know I have a lot of gear, and so this was where that having a lot of gear works. And I just went, I'm going to take a few choices and set up, and we played, and immediately Mark was like, "Oh, this isn't happening at all," and I was like, "Oh shit." This is, how long have we got? I've been here for an hour, I'll probably be going, and this is down at Real World, so I'd already driven down to
He just
Real
said,
World.
this isn't working.
We just went, no, I'm not getting this at all, and I was just like, oh no. And
Jeez.
Ethan and I went outside for a cigarette, and I was going, oh. And I hadn't worked with Ethan, I was thinking, oh God, who knows what's going to happen. And suddenly somebody came up with an idea and approach. It was only the approach, it wasn't anything to do with us, and we tried this a different approach on this one song, and suddenly everybody's jumping about it. So we've got something here. I think, to be honest, it was Ethan's first or second day with Tom as well, so it was kind of not trying out, but it was, how's this going to work? We got something, and they went, we've got a track, this is the first track of the record. Anyway, I went home, it was just down for one day, and then Ethan called me and went, that track's really worked out. So I think another drummer had played the day before, and it worked great, but for whatever reason I got called to go back, and so I ended up doing this whole record with them, and it was a joyous beyond belief. For one thing, because of the way that Ethan works and the way that Tom is as a singer, which is, I've never had an experience where a singer has controlled the feel. I don't mean controlled the feel, has such an immense feel that you just go, I've just got to play with him. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
He swings so hard, and the phrasing is just so amazing. Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, big fucking star.
Yeah, and big fucking voice. I mean, he's standing in the room.
I'm saying a presence. This is my point.
Presence. It's a story. And yet the nicest, funniest guy you could ever meet, and not my experience is just sitting at the table having dinner with him. Just a great, funny storyteller and great laugh, and totally don't feel like you're with, you don't feel like you have to behave yourself. You certainly don't have to worry about what you say in any way. You can just...
He's a man's man.
He's a man's man. You can be yourself. You can swear. You can say what...
He likes it that way, yeah.
Oh, he's just
fucking hardcore.
He's hardcore, and he's seen all walks of life.
Yeah.
And nothing's gonna
Some people have this view of Tom Jones as this kind of Vienna... Yeah, I don't want to,
No.
Like as if he's hanging out with Barry Manilow. Wrong.
No.
Wrong.
No, that's not. This is not Tom Jones.
Tom Jones will fuck you up.
I have to say,
and he can fight too.
Oh, he can fight. I would not want to get him. Some of the stories he tells of him working in the working men's clubs in Wales back in the '60s. Yeah. It's terrifying. I mean,
Yeah. You heard good stories.
I've heard some amazing stories. And
does Tom Jones have some of the best stories you've ever heard?
Not only has he got the best stories, he's one of the best but you know what?
Storytellers.
He's one of the great storytellers. But you know what? So is Noel. I have to say that. And I find what's very interesting about great artists is that the storytelling is. I think great actors are great storytellers. Although
you're right,
I say that, but you still get the odd one where you go, it doesn't make sense. And I always think that about drummers. Like,
what do you mean?
Let's say Robert De Niro.
Okay.
He's a great actor.
Yeah.
You watch him interviewed and you go,
terrible.
Why can he not be?
Because he's more of a savant.
Yeah, but he's one of the great. When he's doing something that,
as an actor, he can go in, but it's like
I'm not talking about. I mean, I'm talking about the great films that he did in the 70s. Obviously, we all know that that was probably some of his best work. He still comes. He still does the odd thing where you go, oh, he's come back a little bit, but he's in a different world now. He's a different. He's
a businessman now.
It's a different world, and you can't blame people. I wouldn't blame people for just being.
Once you get a taste of that Meet the Parents money, it just all.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got to work with directors who want to do creative things and are not trying to do box office hits. I mean, look at Birdman. I think Birdman.
Yeah.
When I watched Birdman, I thought to myself, this is one of the great. This is, to me, one of the great. I thought it was. A lot of people don't agree with me. For me, it was one of the great films.
I'm with you, but I think a lot of it is because of our acting background.
Absolutely,
and that's that's why in this town it won Best Picture, because it speaks to people who know that world.
I think as an actor, somebody who's experienced acting, is one of the best movies about as what actors are like. I cried and I laughed my head off through that film, and I thought Michael Keaton was astounding.
It's great.
It's just, but it's also the story of creative people. You're creative. You really want to do that little play that you've written that nobody really cares about, and then I mean, it's.
Did you ever do that? Was there ever a period where you wrote? Did you try to write plays?
No.
Because I just feel like you were the guy who you tried a little of this, tried a little of that. Maybe you thought about, maybe I'll be a director.
I thought about. I can talk the talk. I can talk about like all sorts of things I'd love to do.
You threw yourself into films. You were saying. I was wondering, like, was there a part of you that thought filmmaker? That's what I want to do.
Do you know what? I don't think I ever wanted to be a filmmaker. I always wanted to be part of a film. I always wanted to be the actor. It's the same with singer-songwriting. You see, I'd love to be able to write songs, but I've never thought of myself, because I can't sing. I haven't got a good singing voice. It's almost like I couldn't. And it's not like you get Pete Townsend, who writes great songs and then gets Roger Daltrey to sing them.
Right.
But Pete Townsend can still sing. He can actually sing.
Yeah.
It's not. He's not the voice of the Who, but he can still. He's still got a voice.
He learned how. I think over that time. Yeah.
I can't sing.
You've tried.
Oh, I've tried.
And people have put you to the test, right?
No, I just don't want to. I don't want to sing. So I think that's where.
No background vocals.
Oh, I've done that. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Not for long.
Yeah.
Yeah. One gig, and that's usually like, let's get him out of the mix.
Sounds like Linda McCartney on the board.
Whoa. So I think. I think that's. I think I know my limitations. So filmmaking. I mean, I've thought to myself, God, I'd love to write a film about this situation, and then usually somebody writes a film that's similar, and I just go, oh, it's done. Just because I want to maybe get some sort of. I have a message in my head that I'd like to get to the people, and then it gets done. And I go, okay, yeah, that's kind of covered that. So it's not a drive. I mean, and I'm getting older now, so my drive to do things is, and I think also it's probably why I meditated, is that there is there is a futility in everything side of me as well.
Yes.
Of looking at everything and just going, there is no point to anything. It sounds terrible. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
You almost want to pull a Leonard Cohen and go up to Mount Baldy for 5 to 10 years.
Well, I did. I told you when I did this meditation thing for a while, I did actually go into a monastery for 3 months, and as a lay person, and
silence.
Not the whole time, but a lot of silence. We did about 8 days of complete silence.
How was that?
It's not. I found it's hard. I mean, it's hard because the mind wants to be, we want entertainment, don't we? There's no, there was no TV, no music.
But this was, by the way, this is pre-internet, right?
Pre-internet, pre-mobile phone.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that because I think we can all agree it would be harder today.
It'd be harder today.
Because we're more
because we could dependent on connection, on this false connection, because I think the connections that we may have had before all this stuff was I remember when I was on the ship, again, going back to the story of the ship, but, every weekend I'd get back to Miami, to the docks. I'd go into town to an area where they had a whole load of phones and do a reverse charge call that cost my parents a load of money so I could speak to my brother and my girlfriend, who I wrote to maybe once or twice in that 5 months. I could only speak to them once a week, and sometimes I overslept. I didn't have time to get... So I'd have 2 weeks of not speaking to them. It's unthinkable, unimaginable now that you don't have. So you are stuck with the people you're stuck with. You can't get away from them. You're on a ship with them. You're sharing room with the keyboard player. Who's trying to.
You're sharing a room with the keyboard player. That's all you have to say.
It's tough.
That's low down. That's steerage. That's down in steerage.
Thank God it wasn't the bass player. Anyway, but it's amazing when you see how life has changed, and I love. We all love our iPhones, and I think. We love hate. We love hate. Yeah,
we love hate. Guys like us, we love hate.
Have you ever played Words with Friends?
Let me ask you this.
That's what I do in this band. We just play Words with Friends. So you wake up and you go, I've got 4 games with the guitar player that I have to do now. Yeah. The guitar playing being Tim Smith. You see now, Tim Smith, who's the guitar player in Noel's band. Now here's a key, just to show how my life is all interconnected. And so, Tim Smith was in Jellyfish.
Yeah.
And Lemon Trees opened for Jellyfish.
That's how far back.
In 92, we did a tour. And then we did a tour with Suzanne Vega, and Mitchell Froome was in Suzanne Vega's band at that time.
Mitchell Froome, holy shit.
Yeah. I met both those guys. I was just a drummer from England. Nobody.
Is that how you met Paterno, by the way?
Yeah, check this out. This is how this is all going to come through. So Tim Smith and I hit it off. Yeah. Because he's a zany, funny, very funny guy. And he's a great player, and my brother and I were like Jellyfish. Wow, Roger Manning, who I've been friends with for years now, and it was a hell of a band. And the Lemon Trees had not done anywhere near the amount of graft that Jellyfish had worked really hard at being a live band, and we thought we'd worked hard, but we were not even close. So, and then I came to, I think I toured with a band. There was a band called Denzel. I just did a tour without the Blue. Their drummer pulled out the last minute, and I decided next 2 months nothing's happening. So I went on this tour with him, and I toured America. And I'd never been to New York, so I properly got to see America. Went to Atlanta, which is where Tim lives. Tim and I called him, and so we reconnected. Anyway, after that tour, Tim got the call to play with Sheryl Crow, to audition for Sheryl Crow, and he recommended me to do the audition with him. But I got a day's notice, so I flew to Los Angeles. I didn't even know. I'd heard "Run Baby Run" at this point, so I knew Sheryl Crow was somebody who'd been on the radio. She wasn't the mega star.
I was going to say, what was at that point? She had done with the Tuesday Night Music Club, right?
She'd done Tuesday Night Music Club. She just recorded Sheryl Crow's record 2. And
okay, I was just trying to place it like the hits wise.
So it's that one, and "Run Baby Run," and
right.
"Leaving Las Vegas," and "Can't Cry Anymore."
What's his name? Did you meet Brian? Okay, did he play on that stuff?
I've met Brian a couple of times. Yes.
I'm blanked on his last name.
Don't play this bit. That I'm forgetting his name because he'd probably get upset. He'd probably get very upset. Brian McLeod. Brian McLeod, great drummer. And of course, "Run Baby Run" was Kevin the guy from what was that band called?
Kevin. You got me there. I'm trying to think of a Kevin.
There was a band called with Patrick. Fucking hell.
Patrick. Well, anyway.
Yeah, sorry, we don't need to go there.
Okay.
Anyway,
okay.
So, yeah, you can cut that bit out.
Yeah.
Or you can keep it in. Just both realise that we're going senile.
Can't do it.
I'm getting senile.
Yes, it does kick in, doesn't it?
So I got a call to do that. So I come out to LA, meet Cheryl. Jeff Trott's on the audition, and I'd met Jeff before, and Tim, and I hadn't learnt the stuff. I didn't have a tape or anything.
So you came in cold.
I came in cold. I mean, I got a cassette the night before. I got to the hotel. They played me a cassette, and I'm English. We don't, the way that I learnt in England was you turn up to rehearse, and that's when you listen to the music and start learning it. I didn't realise that in America you turn up to rehearsal in America completely ready to do the show. So I walked in and she's like, right, let's play If It Makes You Happy. I was like, how
does that start?
How's that go? And she's like, well, I said, well, I only got called yesterday. I've not been sent anything. And she went, oh, okay. And she was kind of, okay, well, we better play the song. So I listened to it once and I played it, and I played everything that I could remember. But of course, I was unprepared. I didn't get the gig.
You didn't get the gig?
Of course, no, I didn't. But Scooter, who's Cheryl's manager, was in the audition, and he said, I like your style, I like your playing. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks, man, Then they start. This is when her career, that second record, where everything she had, it really jumped. It jumped up Cheryl's career jumped a whole level, and so they were suddenly in London playing at Wembley, Right. And Tim, of course, called me, and then Jeff called me. So then I got to meet Jim Boges, who got the gig, and I ran up to Jim Boges. I went, "You got my gig, you must." And we had a great laugh. And then I saw Cheryl again, and I started to just get to know them over the years, and eventually it came around. And it came around because Jeff actually came to London at one point, because I had a studio by this point, and did some recording of his demos at mine. And he'd been working with Cheryl, I think it's around 1999, and he went back, and she'd been trying to record some stuff. She went, I need to find something new. I want to do something different, and I've done 3 albums now, and I want to go, He said, well, I've just been working with Jeremy in London. You should work with him, So suddenly I got a call again. I flew out and went to her studio at her house and started working. And it didn't actually go well to start with, and then we just turned a corner, and one song sort of, I remember, just made her go, okay, we can keep going. Then I ended up working with her for about six months on the 4th record. And then I was going to play with her live, and it went wrong again. Anyway, for whatever reason, and we were around each other for a long time.
You fell asleep.
I did, actually. That was one of the times I fell asleep. That might be the story that we were talking about. That was pre-gig. Okay, you got me. It was... Well, I think we'd just been around each other a lot, and I'd be in the studio for 12 hours a day, and I try and be a nice guy most of the time, but sometimes I just go, I'm not going to be talked to, or I can bark back sometimes.
Sure.
I may have done, may have accidentally said a couple of things I shouldn't have said, and
because it's got the truth.
Anyway, I did that period recording with her for it was almost about a year. She came to London, we went to New York, we'd done stuff at the house, and then it all stopped. Then I did Chris's band. I did New Earth Mud. Chris had seen me play. We were doing these regular shows with Cheryl at a little club in New York, just to sort of blow off some, cobwebs for being stuck in the studio. And lots of people were coming down, so I was meeting. I mean, when you do a gig like that, you're just meeting people all the time. And Chris saw me play with Cheryl, and was really nice about it, and he met my brother as well with Oasis. My brother was playing keyboards with Oasis, and Noel had said, I've been working with Paul, he's a great engineer and a guitar player, and so Chris got interested by that. So then Chris asked Paul to produce his solo record, and I ended up getting the call to play drums on it.
I'm surprised Chris though was okay with working with brothers, if you know what I'm saying. You know.
Well, the weird thing about Paul and I is we've worked with. I mean, we haven't ever. Paul's worked with Oasis.
I was going to say
he's worked with Liam and Noel, but I haven't worked. The two of us haven't worked with Liam and Noel.
Right.
But and actually, we haven't worked with Chris and Rich, even though Paul has. Paul again has worked with
Rich.
Well, he's produced the Three Black Crows records, whereas I work with Chris.
Right.
So the only brothers that I've worked with were the Finn brothers.
Oh, okay.
And all of them are more fiery than Paul and I. I mean, Paul and I have moments of being fiery, but the weird thing is that, and we don't agree on all sorts of things, but somehow we've always managed to sort of make it work.
Mm-hmm. You keep it cool.
We can. We've had our moments,
but you wouldn't do it in front of a Chris Robinson.
Oh, we do it in front of people.
This is what I was saying.
Yeah, no, we do it in front of people. We can do it in front of people. I mean, people have seen us go in front of, but it's not going to be. We kind of know how. I think we both kind of know how stupid it all is, and where it's coming from, and we usually. Yeah. We can have a terrible rout and 5 minutes later be talking as though it didn't happen, or we both say something, look, I'd said this because of this, and you've got to understand why that happened.
Oh, you're brothers. I mean, that's the way it
so
is.
we're
brothers understand this.
We kind of know that we've been pretty good, and we're pretty close compared to maybe the brothers that we've worked with.
At that point, I mean, was Chris Robinson was he bad mouthing the Crows and his brother and all that, and just saying, I want to get away from it?
I've never experienced that. He just wanted to get away from it, and he had got away from it, and he was doing. New Earth Mud was his. Paul and I thought, great, we're joining Chris, because Paul and I have always wanted to rock. We love rocking. We'd like to sit down and play some fucking as well as I love playing quietly too, and I love playing jazz, and I like. Whatever the music requires, but I do like to sit down and bash out some rock. If there's a great singer, then you're sort. I mean, to have the great singer at the front is the ultimate. And Chris is one of the great rock and roll. There's no question, one of the great rock and roll singers out there. I mean, there's really there isn't that many that I can think of.
No,
and Chris is an incredibly talented, funny, super bright guy. I mean, he's a one-off.
Yeah.
So I was very excited to play with him, as was Paul. But he didn't want to do a rock band. He wanted to do the Grateful Dead, which was great as well, because I'd never listened to the Grateful Dead, and I probably will never listen to them now. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not. They're much more.
But without the double drums. He didn't want
without the double drums, but
was that ever talked about?
No. He wasn't doing I mean, he wanted to do a jam band with songs, but a jam band, and we'd do multiple covers every night, and we'd be learning new songs every night. Every sound check would be right. We're going to do this Dylan song. We're going to do this Neil Young song. We're going to do this. So. What's fantastic, and all sorts of old blues things as well. I mean, Chris is an encyclopedia. I mean, he's got encyclopedic knowledge of all sorts. I mean, Chris Robinson will sit down and listen to a Steely Dan record and be totally into it, which immediately I was impressed by his width of taste. I mean, nobody would expect Chris Robinson to be into Steely Dan. He's a massive Steely Dan fan.
I don't think that's not surprising.
No, but in England, it's really hard to find Steely Dan fans. I mean, super hard. One of my favourite. I mean, I love them. Absolutely.
Too slick.
People don't like. Some people don't like. A lot of English people. I'm sure a lot of American people don't like it. I love Steely Dan. In fact, I did a Steely Dan tribute thing last year. Not tribute thing. I just went, I'm going to get some great musicians together, and I want to play those songs
right.
for one gig.
Right.
And we rehearsed as best we could, and we did it, and it was immense fun. I don't know how good it was, but it was we really, you know, we went for it.
Sure.
The amount of time, you know.
Who has better weed, Chris Robinson or Noel Gallagher?
Well, Noel Gallagher doesn't smoke weed.
So there you go.
So
there you go, folks.
I mean, I don't know whether I should. Yeah, but I've never seen him smoke weed. So
there you go. There's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying that I've seen Chris Robinson smoke weed, but I mean, I would imagine Chris Robinson would know.
Well, he keeps it very private. You know,
I've never seen him do that stuff, but I would imagine that Chris has a lot more knowledge about weed. Just because I would imagine he does.
You did work with Amy Winehouse.
I did. Once. Well, I worked with her before her break.
This was Frank. This was before the black.
and she hadn't got that image together. She was a healthy looking person who I didn't really speak to very much, or I don't know if I actually said anything to her. I was working with a producer who put a jazz trio together. Because he wanted to record Amy singing. I don't even know what song I did with her. All I know is I went to the studio for an afternoon, played a couple of jazz standards with brushes, very, very minimal, simple playing, and she sung on top after we played.
She wasn't very memorable.
She maybe sung it live with us. I think she maybe. It was such a no. I mean, because she wasn't famous at that point. There was no entourage. There was no.
Yeah.
It was just like turn up. Jazz singer, piano player, which was Jason, who's my mate, so we were just having a laugh, and bang out a couple of, jazz standards.
And at this point in the game, when you're doing these names and working with people, I mean, were you ever considering moving over here full time? Did that ever?
I've considered it many times. I absolutely.
Where would you choose if you had to pick a plot in this country?
That is the difficult. Well, there's only two places it could be. LA or New York, and
okay.
I love all sorts of places. I like.
What would you choose? LA
I love New Orleans. I mean, I had a great time.
Sure.
But would I live there? I don't think so. I think I could definitely live in New York, and I could definitely live in LA.
Because New York is more London, right?
It is, but it's nothing like it really. No. I love it.
But closer than here.
It is. I think, to be honest, if I had the financial situation to do, I would do both.
Beat by.
Yeah.
Spend the winter out here?
Well, I wouldn't even spend. I don't really ever think of periods of time.
You just say this week.
This week. I really think New York's working for me, and it depends who's playing and what's going on.
Yeah. Does the winter bother you? You don't care about the cold? I'm from
the UK. I mean,
you take your shirt off at the cold and just stand there, right? Say, come on.
Yeah, we do all that.
Hit me again,
Yeah, no, I don't mind it.
You don't care.
I don't really. I mean, I can't.
Jeremy Stacey's a real man. See, that's fucking cold doesn't bother me.
I'm not. I mean, I love to be comfortable like anyone, but. I don't really worry about those sort of things. The weather. I mean, if you're playing, if you're in the studio making a record in LA, what experience of LA are you really having as far as the weather? I mean, it's to do with the people that I know, the friends that I have, and the ability to be able to play music with people that inspire me. And LA and New York are where I've had my favourite musical. I mean, I've had some great musical experiences in England, but a lot of my favourite ones are usually connected with people from. I mean, Ethan's English, but he spent so much time in America. His attitude and his way of working, I find more American than English.
Mm-hmm. Do you like American humor? Humor.
Some of it, yeah.
But a lot of it is like I don't get it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like anything, I don't get British. I think a lot of the so-called great British comedians now are the unfunniest people on the planet. Yeah.
The current, or just in general, like a very.
No, I mean, I think we've had some great. I mean, England's got great great comedians, but I'm just talking about what's trendy at the moment.
Do you like James Corden?
I'm on his show today.
I know. That's right.
Actually, in a few
recording
hours.
Today. That's why I'm asking you.
Do you know what I'm going to say? I don't know. I've never watched him.
I mean, either.
Never watched him.
I don't know how he got the job.
I don't know how he got the job.
I can't figure that out.
Wasn't he in that musical with Meryl Streep?
I don't know who the fuck he is. I don't know how he got the job. I'm not kidding. I don't know how he got the fucking
job. I have no idea.
But he got the job.
But yeah, I will reserve my judgment till I've done the show.
Ricky Gervais or Larry David?
Oh, Ricky Gervais. I love Ricky Gervais. I mean, The Office. When I saw The Office, I thought it was absolute genius. Yeah. Absolute genius. I love Larry David, of course. But when I saw Ricky Gervais, and you know, Coogan, early Coogan stuff. You know, when I first watched, you know, when Alan Partridge. I mean, anything when it comes out, it's the new thing. It's a new style of comedy. Of course, love all that stuff.
Do you ever miss it? You ever think about, like, I'd like to get into acting. I'd like to be. Yeah.
I've thought it many times. But it, like anything, it's.
Could you imagine?
One forgets how incredibly. I think it's a very. I mean. It's a bit like lots of people can play the drums. Anybody can play the drums, but if you really start looking into it, very few people can play the drums. So you know what I do understand. And it's the same with acting. 100%. There's a million actors out there, but when you see great and that's the problem. Is for me to do acting. Well, I have the same problem with drumming as well. Yeah. It's for me to do it the way that I want to do it, to the depth, the level. Even if you're just sitting there playing. You know, boom, cha, boom, boom, cha. There's some. You listen to some people play that, and you just go, there's mastery of the instrument. There's somebody that really knows.
But have you ever walked yourself through it and thought about, God, getting fucking headshots again, like doing all this? Have you actually walked yourself through the steps and thought, get an agent, be out here, go on auditions?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, that's gone.
That's gone.
No, if somebody,
it would have to be a friend.
Somebody came to me about 10 years ago and said that they had this film idea that they wanted me to be involved with, and it got talked about a little bit. And,
right, that would be different.
But the thing I would have to go and do, if let's say, you know, walking down the street and Quentin Tarantino walks up to me and goes,
"Yeah,
you're the guy that I need for my next film."
Yeah,
I'd go, okay. How long are you going to give me to go and? I need to go and. Well,
Jeremy Stacey, I don't know if you people know this, played the Gimp in Pulp Fiction. If we want to talk about that for a minute.
That actually was me. No.
Hang on a second. You worked with Joe Cocker.
I did.
Joe Cocker. I mean,
amazing.
Come on.
Yeah. Again, that was just getting a producer. It's always the same thing. It's usually a producer. Mm-hmm. You know, especially when, you know, with Joe at that time, you know, with his management, the whole thing, it's, you know, they're going for a certain market. It wasn't like playing, it wasn't going to be Mad Dogs and Englishmen, was it? You know, and the album that I did with him, I don't really know I don't know what I think about it. I'm being honest. Yeah. I've listened to it maybe once and thought, oh,
okay.
Well, I suppose I can put that I played with Joe Cocker on my CV, but I had no control over the record, the way it was done. I don't think the record's bad. I just don't think it's not. It's done for. It's a record done for a market for. It's a business venture. So and that's the. I mean, this is the whole thing that you have. I mean, this is where, you know, the Birdman story is. You go in and do something with somebody great, but it's still just a product for a particular. That's what it felt like. I might be wrong, but that's what it felt like to me. You're doing a product for somebody. When you do a creative record, you kind of not always aware, but you know that you're doing something not for those reasons, just by the whole way it's set up. And that's why I like playing on records sometimes with, you know, just unknown people that are just trying to do something different, or maybe not, or just they've just written a nice song, you know. Mm-hmm.
What are you most proudest of? I mean, what is there one record you would point to, or no? It doesn't work that way.
No, yeah, it's very difficult.
Who's your favorite child? Is it?
Well, I mean, I did those 2 Ryan Adams records. I did Ashes and Fire, which was the first time I'd worked with Glyn Johns.
That was out here, you did?
Yeah, and it was a great band. It was Gus Seifert on bass. He's playing with Beck now. He doesn't play bass with Beck, but he's playing other instruments. And Nora Jones on piano. Ben Mont was playing. That was the first time I'd worked with Ben, even though I jammed with him with John Bryan at Largov a couple of times. We got on, but it was, I think, Ashes and Fire, I suddenly get called to do Ashes and Fire because Glyn had heard the record I'd done with Tom Jones, with Ethan, and he said, I want that drummer for this record. And I don't know why, but anyway, I considered myself incredibly. I think it was the Tom Jones, maybe it was something else.
Did you get the call from Glyn? Or his people?
No, from Glyn direct. Always from Glyn direct. Yeah.
No, I mean the first call.
The first call was from Glyn.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's great.
Did you go, yeah, fuck you, and hang up the first?
No,
was it one of those?
No. Well, because I'd worked with Ethan, I knew.
Hello, Jeremy. This is Glyn.
I'd met Glyn a couple of times anyway while working with Ethan, but.
Did you ever get that call? Have you ever had that, like, where it was someone and you thought, get the fuck out of here, come on?
No, I to be honest, I never have that. I always assume that if somebody's calling me to do something, that's cool. I don't have the. I can't believe. I mean, I've had some weird moments in where you sort of go, is this actually happening? I remember it's just a funny one. I was in London and Jason Rebello, my friend, piano player friend who I did all these records with, was there playing with Sting, with Vinny playing drums, and Doyle Bramhall, who's another really great.
Wasn't he dating Sheryl Crow or anything? Or they?
Not at that time. This is,
okay.
But he was playing with Clapton. He was in London, and Steve Gadd was playing drums. And I'd met Steve Gadd with Doyle. I'd gone to a dinner that Doyle invited me, and I'd sat next to Steve, and I didn't talk about drums, and I didn't let him know I was a drummer, but he already knew, and then he started asking me,
really?
What drums do you use? And I was like,
what drums do you use?
And I was like, he said, well, I know. He said, I know you're a drummer. I said, oh, well, yeah, I just didn't want to, we were at dinner, I didn't want to start asking you questions, and then we ignored everybody and talked for about an hour about all sorts of things. It was fantastic, and he was the sweetest guy you could ever imagine. But I was with Doyle, and with Doyle, Jason and I decided to go to dinner, and Vinny came along, and Doyle didn't have his American phone with him, and he'd given Steve Gadd my phone number. So while I'm sitting at dinner, Steve Gadd calls me to speak to Doyle.
Okay.
And then I told him that I was with Vinny. He was like, I can't. And I was just going, like when I was in my teens, can I ever imagine that I'd be at a table where Steve Gadd calls me and asks to speak to Vinny? as a crazy, a crazy moment in time. But those sort of little things where you just go, I mean, it's just people and it's just a situation, but you just go, no, come on, it's a blast. It's a blast. It's incredible, all the people that I've met, and you don't really notice it when it's happening. I don't think you understand what I mean.
Like you said, they're just
you just get and you get. I mean, obviously, the first time I met Tom Jones, it's like it's Tom Jones. But once you start sitting at the dinner table and you're just talking away, and you get comfortable with them, they're just people, and like anyone else. And I mean, certain people I work with remind you that they are who they are, and some of them just don't. They're just, some of them are just normal people.
Yeah. Charlotte Gainsbourg.
That was a really interesting one. I don't really know how that came about. When I was working with the Lemon Trees early on, we worked with a guy called Jack Joseph Puig, who I'm sure you've heard of.
Of course.
He was another life-changing experience because I'd never worked up to that point. I'd worked through the 80s in England where everybody had SSL. Most records were programmed. So my drumming career in the 80s in London, which is when I was really starting,
right,
was dealing with the fact that everybody really would prefer to have a Lindrum or a emulator or whatever playing the drums, and that a drummer was a thing that had to play as in time as a drum machine, and that whole thing was what was going on. But everybody'd forgotten. The English we had all this great gear, great tape machines, and everybody was just trying to get more and more control. So everybody was using SSLs to record. They were using, because hey, we've got a gate and a compressor on every channel. We've got control. It doesn't matter that the signal path sucks. It sounds like shit. But so that whole thing was going on, and I was just used to going to studios and getting a really bad sound, basically. And then I worked with Jack Joseph Puig, and the first time that I worked with him in London at a studio, Rack Studios, where I'd worked 100,000 times with all sorts of people, I just could not believe the sound I was hearing. I was just like, what is this? I didn't recognise any of the mics that he'd brought over from America with him, or just the whole concept of what he was doing. And I was like, I'm interested by this. So this is when I started buying recording gear after working with Jack. And Jack was definitely responsible for the change of direction for me with that. So where were we? Sorry.
I mentioned Charlotte Gainsbourg.
Yes, but Nigel Godrich was the assistant on that session.
Wow.
So Nigel was assisting on that session. And I worked with Nigel loads of times in that thing at Rack where he was assisting, and he was just go and make us a cup of tea, mate. Like right now, you little,
yeah.
Just being unpleasant to assistants as we all were. So, and of course then Nigel becomes But I did a whole load session with Nigel even when he was starting to produce pre-Radiohead. With Guy Chambers and all sorts. So I knew Nigel well, and then I suddenly didn't see him for years, and then I don't know whether whoever he wanted to use wasn't available, but I suddenly got a call from him to go and do this record with Air and Charles Gainsbourg in France, and he said that Fela Kuti drummer was going to play on a couple of tracks, which is Tony Allen. Yep. Could he use my kit? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I suppose so. For a small hire charge. Yes, but anyway. So I went and did that, and that was great. I mean, it was the same studio that we'd done the Chris Robertson New Earth Mud. So I knew that studio. It's called Gang Studios in. So that was Jack. That was and then through working with Jack, Nigel. I got to work with Nigel. I really enjoyed that record. I loved the sound that he got on those tracks that we did, and I haven't really worked with Nigel since. I don't know whether he liked what I did or not, but it was a good. I was very pleased that I got to play on that album. I thought the Air guys were great, and I did the 07 records, and that's another interesting thing. Is that is also a Rack project thing. Both the guys from 07 were engineers at Rack, and Nigel Godrich was in the background on the 07 records. He's not credited, but he was.
Oh, okay.
He's sort of like maybe like an executive
producer,
sort of without being credited, was sort of involved. He just knew those guys and
vibe.
Yeah, but I mean, not that he was ever there at the sessions, but he was there. He was there at one set on the second record. He was at the session because it was at his studio at the time. But that was a good fun period of again, you just go in for 3 hours and right, play this tune, play this tune, play this tune. Okay, we've done 3 tunes. See you later. That's no big deal. And then you listen to it later and go, they caught a little thing there. With I thought they did some had some cool moments on some of their stuff. Try not to be too complimentary, am I?
Fuck them all. Just not to, just so we don't just go through name. Break it up a little.
Paterno.
Paterno. Yeah, John Paterno. We're talking about an engineer extraordinaire.
Yeah. So when I did this tour of with this guy Denzel, which is just the weirdest thing. I don't know why. I mean, I did that to her because the drummer couldn't do it, and they asked me, and I just wanted to go to America for a couple of months, and it was really good. But I was in LA, I was at a party, got talking to this girl who had done a record, and she said, I'm going to play this record that I've done, and she played it to me, and I just went, it's not very good, is it? You know, just straight up. She said, well, what would you do? What would you do? I said, well, I'd do it differently, you know. So little did I know that she had a boyfriend who was a very successful businessman. Next minute, she's saying, I want you to help me make another record. So I was like, why me? And she said, well, you know, you seem to know what you're talking about. So I said, okay, well, you know, who's going to write the song? Anyway, we basically tried to get this record together, and they wanted to do it in LA. I flew out, and I was a massive fan of the Mitchell and Chad Blake records at the time. I was
Los Lobos.
Los Lobos, Suzanne Vega, was so many of them, Crowded House, and all those, and just interested by the sound that
Anything
Chad.
with Pete Thomas, right?
Well, and also, yeah, absolutely, and Jerry Marotta as well was playing on. And of course, Cheryl had been involved. And actually, Mitchell had mentioned, I think he'd mentioned to Cheryl that I might be okay. But of course, I didn't get the gig to start with. But so when I came to LA, they were saying, well, what studio are we going to use? And I said, well, I've only worked with Jack Puig at Ocean Way Studio A, so I don't think that's where we're going to really do a record. What do you think? It's a little expensive. So we chose... They said, well, what other studios do you know? And I said, well, I've heard that there's one that Mitchell and Chad use, which is Sunset Sound Factory, and it's probably not that expensive. Went there, Mitchell and Chad were in there, and obviously I hadn't met Chad at this point, but I'd toured with Mitchell, been on the road, and he said, oh yeah, let's meet up. So we just met up, and I said, look, I've got to try and do this record. I don't know what I'm going to do, and what do you recommend? Have you got any suggestions? And they said, well, our assistant, John Paterno, he's amazing. He's way overqualified, and he'd jump at the chance to do a record. I said, well, I think I'm going to record most of it in London because it's going to get the music done, but I want to finish it out here, get the vocals done out here. So John and I met. We did this record. It never saw the light of day, and to be honest, it was, you know, no offence to the artist, but she wasn't really an artist. She was just somebody who wanted to make a record. It was a great experience for me to try and put a record together. It's not, I don't think it's a very good record, unfortunately, but through it I met John, and John and I really hit it off, and I just could see that he was obviously a very talented engineer, but more importantly than that, he's just been a really loyal friend to me, and always, you know, he's a great guy, and he's really helped me with lots of things. Just here, you know, understanding things, or I can talk to him about engineering. He can explain anything to me about, you know. And we're from different. It's the same with my brother. I don't think of myself as an analytical guy. I look into things and I let things wash over me, but I don't really go, I'm going to learn exactly what this means because this is the way you have to do things, because I don't believe that there is a right way to do anything. I want to discover maybe a new way to do something, but I'm still interested in what people have done, and I'll go, oh, that's quite a good idea to do that, and then I'll maybe use an element of that idea, and then something else naturally, hopefully, happens that's different. So that's the way I look at it. But I got to meet John, and that was, we're still great friends, and we haven't worked together that much recently because, you know, it's just logistics and the way the business, you know, the business now, it's such a funny old business, the music business, don't you think?
Funny, haha.
No, well, it's not funny. It's not
funny.
No,
it's a tragedy.
Well, maybe it's just that we've all been very lucky
Well, you've really seen though. You've seen the differences. I mean, you were.
It's a very different scene.
You were in the old.
Yeah, I managed to experience the really old. Yeah. Just
you did
because I am old. Basically.
But I'm saying you had a taste.
No, I've had a very good taste of lots, and the same with incredibly, from doing all sorts of different types of music.
Yeah,
I've been very, very lucky with that, and even now I'll go and do something sort of quite odd off what people might expect me to do, just to see, even if it for a short time, just to see what it might be like, because I always think that you can go and do some weird gig that might not be what people would expect you to do. If it's 2 or 4 weeks out of your life, what's the big deal?
No.
But in that 4 weeks, you might find something. Like, if I hadn't done that Denzel tour, I wouldn't have done that record.
Well, you wouldn't have hooked up with Mitchell Froome.
And then I wouldn't have hooked up with Mitchell Froome, and I wouldn't have met John. And all these things that have happened have been so valuable on every level for me. And same, I do the Sheryl Crow gig, but because I'm doing the Sheryl Crow gig, I can go down to, the Village and watch great jazz and find out about this jazz scene. And through them I met, Wayne Krantz and Tim LaFave, who's now a really great friend of mine, and all these amazing musicians who really inspire me that I would never... I mean, I remember I saw that guy Ari Honig when I was... in 1999 because I produced Jason Rebelli's 4th record, and Jeff Tain Watts played drums on it, and Jeff Tain Watts is one of my absolute heroes, and but there again, I see him when I'm 18 years old, so that would have been in 1981. I saw him in 1981 at a festival with Wynton Marsalis with Kenny Kirkland. Wow. And I went there because my brother was playing with the National Youth Jazz Orchestra. He was the guitar player in the National Youth Jazz Orchestra. And I went and saw, and Steps were on. And I was like, oh great, I get to see Peter Erskine with Michael Brecker and Steps and blah, blah, blah. And then this band comes on earlier called Wynton Marsalis, and I thought, and the only reason I watched them is I noticed Kenny Kirkland was playing, and I'd heard him on some record with Steve Jordan, and I thought I really like his piano playing, but he was playing like funkier sort of thing. I liked his piano playing, so I only went and watched. I mean, it was a big festival, but I went.
You mean Branford, by the way, or Wynton?
It was Branford and Wynton. It was the original band where it was Branford, Wynton. It was Charlotte Moffat on bass. Jeff Tain Watts' first trip over to England. It's the first time they'd been over. It was the first record. Think of one. The second record wasn't released, and I sat and watched Jeff Watts, and I went, I don't know what this drumming is, but this is some of the best because I hadn't really got into Elvin at that point, but I was really, so I was 18, but I was really into later Tony, and Jeff Watts definitely had an element of the later Tony, but he had another thing, and I suppose he was more polyrhythmic than Tony in a weird way. He was doing more modern just breaking up the beat. I was, playing a lot of stuff in 6, and I was just going, I'm really digging this. I've got to find out. Bought the first Wynton Marsalis album, saw that Herbie and Tony, Herbie Hancock, Tony Williams are on it, and I thought, oh well, this all makes sense. But I hadn't really listened to Miles at this point, so anyway, so Jeff Watts became one of my heroes, and then I found out about the whole, well, actually, the real period of, Tony Williams is the 60s with Herbie, with Nefertiti, ESP, Miles Smiles, and I'm totally obsessed about those records. And then eventually got into Elvin through listening to Jeff Tain Watts, and then realised that half of what Gadd does comes from Elvin as well, and Philly Joe, and then you start. And this is the thing: is you just get obsessed with the whole history of how a drummer formed their ideas. Because you look at Steve Gadd, I mean, it's like he's where did those ideas come from? I mean, nobody played like that when he first came to New York in the 70s. I mean, in a way, it's the weirdest drumming. You could say it's the weirdest drumming because everybody played these normal things, and he just didn't play normally at all. And yet the feel was so incredible. So, and that fascinates me. So as you say, I started to see that all these connections of this is how this guy got this thing together, and without the Philly Joe influence and without the, so I have to check all those guys out individually and find the best records of those guys, which I did, and I really got into the straight ahead thing while I was doing the Lemon Trees. So it's almost like I came through with like fusion and jazz rock, if you wanted. That's what they used to call it before fusion. So like the 70s jazz rock. And then I discovered straight ahead and blues rock and roll and English rock and roll, really. And both of those sort of aligned together, and I got into real straight ahead drumming, realised that I loved all those drummers, and from Sonny Payne and although obviously he's known more as a big band drummer, but as far as swing feel, I still think Sonny Payne's one of my favourite drummers of all time, actually. But Philly Joe, Elvin, but then all the Jack DeJohnette, another one who I just absolutely have loved all my, particularly again 60s, 70s. I love all these. I like films from the 60s and 70s. I love drummers from the 60s and 70s. Then in the 80s, I liked it for a bit, and then I sort of went off that style. What happened in the 80s? Nobody's fault. It never stuck with me in the same way. And then everybody in the 90s started recreating what happens, going, hey, that thing that was happening back then was maybe that's when we got it right, You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I think people are still doing that.
Yeah, no, I think they are. Even though I can still go into the 80s and go, yeah, that's fucking great. That's great as well.
There's a lot of great stuff.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just different. There's a different flavour about it. There's something about the 70s that's still got this, and 60s and 70s where everybody's discovering things. And in the 80s, it's just like, let's just do tons of blow and think we're great.
It's funny how a lot of that stuff at the time seemed really,
that's not what I did. I'm just saying
really
that's
cheesy.
What. Yeah, no, I mean.
But now it sounds fucking amazing.
Well, it sounds amazing because
when the Bowie shit came out at the time, the Let's Dance thing, I thought this is cheesy shit.
Yeah.
But now it's fucking genius.
It's genius, and you know what it is, and this is my theory on everything, is that, and it's the thing that I now find that has gone from a lot of music, and why I tend to detest a lot of music that's on the radio now, is that there is no songwriting, not great songwriting anymore. Even in the 80s you had great songwriting, even if it might have been recorded on SSL and there's a cheesy fucking Simmons kit on it or whatever, even though sometimes the Simmons, sometimes that's the thing that's great about it as well. I love electronic music. I'm not anti anything, and I'm not anti the 80s at all. People get funny about the 80s. It's like, well, I can still put Tears for Fears, the big songs from the Big Chair on, and go, that album is still an amazing album. It's very 80s. There's a lot of
because there's a lot of bad shit.
There's a lot of reverb on it, but there's a lot of delays on it. But it's great. There's some great writing on it. It's original and it sounds like that band. Nobody's ever sounded like that since. So.
I mean, I wish that Keith Richards' Expensive Winos record wasn't made in the 80s. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, but it's still great. Yeah. And Charlie Drayton, I mean...
He's still, yeah, exactly.
And,
which is like still the best feel on that album. I'm sorry, I'm saying it. I'm coming out and saying it. Take It So Hard, that's Charlie.
Take It So Hard is the track. It's the track.
To me, that's the best...
It's the track.
Yeah,
that's the track. That's the track. It's the only track I listen to on that record.
That's what I'm saying.
In fact...
I'll come out and fucking say it.
It's that band, it's that one song.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every band has got...
You hear the snare at the beginning. I love that. Come on.
Charlie Drayton.
Nobody does that anymore.
Charlie Drayton's amazing.
Charlie fucking Drayton.
Yeah. Incredible.
You got a lot of kits. How many snares you own? Do you even know?
Do you know? I don't know, and I don't really. Sometimes
take a guess. How many snares? If you had a guess.
I think I've probably got more kits than I've got snares.
How many kits you own?
It's got to be in the 70s or 80s. And I'm not proud of it. It's actually I'm not proud of it because it's I'm a hoarder. I've got the disease. I've talked to a few of our local LA great drummers who I'm fortunate to know a little bit, and we've talked about our habit, and that it is a habit, and it's really difficult because if I watch a hoarding program, I go, that's my problem, because I can make a reason why I need to keep that kit, even though I've had it for 10 years and I haven't fucking even set it up or ever played it. I've got kits that I've bought that I've never played. I'm being honest.
I love it. No, wait a minute. Hold on. This hoarding thing, does it apply to all areas of your life?
Yes. The things that I'm focused on. I did it with CDs when I got into music, and first of all it was records, then it was CDs, and then of course little did we know that and I love the fact that I can carry this little bag here with my iPod, which is 160 gig, and I have every record. All it is access to music. I don't want to have loads of CDs, even though it's nice to have the hard copy.
Do you like vinyl?
I do like vinyl, but you know what? I sold my vinyl, and it's because I am a creature. I have a patience problem. So
what's the work part with the flipping it over?
I just want to listen to something now. And it's like I can pull this iPod out and I can put it on now.
Right, vinyl too much bullshit.
It sounds better. Sometimes it sounds better. I mean, I sometimes I don't. I just think you listen to a Beatles record on an iPod, it still sounds like a Beatles record to me, and it sounds better than most of the shit. you know what I'm saying? It's somehow the original thing is the key to the sound. It's how it was recorded, how it was not only how it's recorded, how the fact that the band maybe played together. Mm-hmm. I'm discovering that is usually my favourite of most records. Mm-hmm. It somehow translates, even if it's a super tight, smooth, record. There's something about when the band plays together that I think it's just the fact that everybody reacting in real time at the same time. So if you've got the singer singing the actual take that you're playing with, the phrasing of the singer and your phrasing will be interlinked in a way that cannot happen in the same way. So even though I've done all sorts of crazy things. I've done a lot. England's is more in favour of control. They like control. So when I did that Joe Cocker record, for instance, I'll tell you what happened. Just to give you an example of what an English musician might have to go through, and I mean, if the producers listen to this, I'm not actually. I understand why he did what he did, because it's the time and it was that type of record. But to me, to make a record that way, I don't really know if I understand why one would do it, because he got the band in with an MD and he got a guy to sing instead of Joe, because Joe wasn't around, so he wanted the band rehearsed. So we learnt all the songs, which are all dead easy, straightforward songs. We tried them, different tempos, different keys, blah, 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 blah. And we go in the studio and we recorded a couple of backing tracks. Mm. And then Joe came in and sang on top. And he was like, well, aren't I going to sing with the band together? And it's like, no, we've already recorded it, So we record it, Joe sings the vocals, and then each one of us went in and individually recut our parts. So I went and redid the drums once, and then I think Joe re-sung it again.
Ugh, that's so stupid. I mean, just how not to make a record.
And it just sounds separated and listen. Anyway, that's why when you said about Joe Cocker, I sighed a little bit, because it's you'd want to play with that guy, and and I never will, but it's unfortunately, but it would have been great to have done it that way, and we could have done it that way, and you know what, it would have been done quicker, and it would have been better. That's what I think. I really do. But people don't trust that, because especially at that time. I think it was the 90s. I did that mid to late 90s. Everybody's just doing records in, bit piece by piece. Oh, your bass drum, I don't like the bass drum pattern on that thing. Can we drop in? As we had to back then, no Pro Tools.
Yeah. All right, so you mentioned before you have a small apartment. Not small. I take that back. We were talking earlier about the difference of just a pre-interview about New York, London, and apartment sizes. Yeah. Are there drum kits in the apartment stacked up?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Would I find if I walked in? Would I see any drums at all? Or
no.
Nothing.
I don't think I have any.
You just
drums.
don't keep them at home.
Not the moment. I mean, I used to back in the day, but I've had a studio for 20 years. I may not have a studio in about 2 months for the first time in 20 years.
Rent issues?
The rents are going up sky high in London. Every studio I've had has had a problem. The last studio I was in had a noise problem where I moved in to a recording studio and found out after I'd signed the 3-year lease that I couldn't make noise after 7 o'clock at night because it was next to a residential, and that the council could close me down completely, and I'd have to pay.
You couldn't get out.
Couldn't get out the lease, but I managed to work a way around it. Basically, I couldn't play drums after 7 o'clock at night. I could be in the control room. I could overdub anything, so I had to work a different way. And I ended up staying there for 6 years because the room was great. It was a great room, and I managed to did some good records. Well, I say I did some good, it worked. The new place that I've had for 2 years, which I'm about to leave, has got damp issues, has got leaking roof, has got, and if you knew what I was paying,
for a leaky roof.
It's
London though.
It's a lot, but I have a lot of gear, so and I'm selling, I'm selling a lot of it as well. I'm just getting older and just going, you know what, I'd like to have a place where I've got a whole load of drum kits to choose from if when sessions come up.
Who has more kits than you, that you know?
In England? I don't know.
No, anywhere here. Anywhere.
I don't know actually.
There's no one.
I don't know.
No, I'm asking.
I mean, there may well be, and I mean, I've got a mixture. I mean, I've got some really cool, valuable stuff, but a lot of my stuff is, a Gretsch round badge I bought in, the early 90s for £150.
Mm-hmm.
Like just a 13, 16, 22. It's not in great nick, but it sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care about drums being pristine in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm with Tama drums, and those new Star drums are incredible. I mean, I think they're probably the best drums that you can buy at the moment, to me. And they're very clean because they're new, but they're the only ones that have worked for me recently.
Is that frustrating though? I mean, that's an actually interesting point here. I mean, a guy who collects and has a lot of kits, is it frustrating to be part of a company? Because then you have to, right? You're on tour, you have to use Tama, right?
Oh yeah. Oh no, but that makes, I wouldn't want to use a vintage kit on tour.
I'm just.
I mean, depending. I mean, maybe if it was a different sort of music, I might want to. But generally, I mean, for Noel's gig, absolutely not. I want a strong kit. And to be honest, using the Star kit is it's kind of. I mean, it's a really expensive kit, But
how can you get
and I'm bashing. I play pretty hard with Noel. I mean, it's about the only gig I now do where I play loud.
Yeah.
And I do play as loud, not as loud as I can play. Well, actually, in a couple of instances, it's probably as loud as I would be able to physically play. But the time, it can. I've had moments where I've thought this is a nuisance, but generally because I had the Star Classic original kit, which is good. It's a good solid. It's a bit like a Yamaha Absolute Maple. It's a good solid 6-ply maple kit.
Mm-hmm.
Does the job.
Mm-hmm.
used that with Sheryl Crow for years. I had this green sparkle kit, and I used that with Noel the first time. Then they brought out these Babinga drums, and the Babinga kits are really interesting. Don't sound like anything else. I really like them, and they record amazingly as well. They're really thuddy and big sounding and punchy, and they're amazing. But I did say to Tama, look, why doesn't somebody just make something like an old Camco, or, you know? I mean, how hard would it be to make? And these are the sort of drums that people still like. You know, people like the 3-ply with the glue ring and. Yeah. Anyway, they made the Star drum, not probably anything to do with me mentioning it, and that, unfortunately, they've changed the lug, and it looks a bit like a Gretsch, but the shell is more like a Camco, and it's amazing. I mean, it really is as close to it's like a modern Camco, and I think Camco drums are probably almost my favourite drums.
They are. You think of the vintage.
They're definitely what I mean. I can then sit down at Radio King, which is a completely different thing, and go, "This is amazing," and sit down at a Sonor Phonic or a Sonor Light and go, "This is amazing." I mean, there's always going to be amazing different things, but if you just want a regular, Camco to me is between a Gretsch and a Ludwig. It's got an element of the Gretsch brightness and dryness, but it's a bit more thuddy than a Gretsch Camco. They've got the Ludwig mid-range thuddy sort of thing. So it's right in between. And the Tamas are like a slightly modern version of that. Mm-hmm. So just a little, but they don't sound like modern. Your latest modern. I'm not going to mention any companies, but you know what I mean.
I can.
You can say what you
TW.
like. Really? I'm not anti-DW. I've never played.
DWs don't sound like Camcos, do they?
No. I don't.
Funny though, isn't it?
They did. I thought the early kit, the very early kit, when they started, were pretty cool. The very early DW, but I've.
You ever compare like?
A lot of people would find that very difficult because I know a lot of people like.
You ever get on a new set of USA Customs, for example? Gretsch.
Yeah.
I mean, do you and just go no, like now?
To be honest, I've always done. For years I used to sit in at jazz clubs, and the great thing is, you get on a kit, and it's quite often these jazz clubs they have like some Pearl DLX or MLX. Oh, we've got the latest Pearl kit here. Yippee! But I think. But you've just got stuff in front of you, and it's not set up the way that you're normally set up, and you just got this thing in front of you. You've got to make some music, and that's how I look at it. I can quite often go into a rehearsal room with some like bashed up Pearl export kit, and you sit down and you go, I'm enjoying playing this for whatever reason. So obviously, if you're doing your own gig and you've got you're doing a professional gig and you've got to turn up, and it's great to have a solid, the Tama stuff's really solid, the hardware's solid, the drums.
That's the main thing. Isn't it? You're on the road. You want solid hardware.
You just want solid. You just want everything to work.
The kick drum can't slide.
Yeah, you don't want anything to slide. And the Tama thing, they've got everything so it's decoupled, so that like the floor toms have got those legs with the. So you hit the floor tom, it's got bottom end, which an old Gretsch round badge definitely doesn't, unless you change the rubber things on the feet. And,
gaskets and this and that.
Do whatever you need to do to, and so I'm very, very happy with the Tama stuff, I have to say. I'm not doing the big sell just because I'm, the tape's rolling. It really has been a big change. And I left a rather famous cymbal company about 3 or 4 years ago and went with Istanbul, and I actually. Because Joey Waronker and Matt Chamberlain had always said to me, we think you'd prefer Istanbul cymbals than.
You want to be lost in the shuffle over at that.
And then I met.
place.
I don't know if you've met Scott Lykin, but he's He's a very interesting, cool guy who's the main guy at Istanbul AGOT. And
do you have more cymbals than snares?
I got a lot of cymbals. I got a lot of OKs and stuff. But they've got Pisces and like 60s Pisces, Formula 602.
You even have Sabians.
I don't have any Sabians. I have one Sabian, and I don't hate Sabian. I just don't have one.
No.
Not one.
Got any cambers?
Which
camber?
What's that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know. No. That's old K's, old A's. Lots of old K's, lots of old A's.
UFIP? Any UFIP?
No UFIP. I mean, I wouldn't if I saw
Charlie
a great.
Watt style.
I've got a few cymbals that don't have any name. I mean, I've got a couple of cymbals I used even on the Ryan record. There's a ride that I bought for like $29 in a pawn shop. That's a 24-inch ride. I think it's not an Astro. I've got another cymbal. It's a 20-inch Astro cymbal. It's just dark, clanky. It just sounds great.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of little things that I'll just go. I'll put this up because it doesn't sound like anything else I've got. But the Istanbul cymbals are. They're pretty amazing for new cymbals.
Istanbul doesn't pay me to talk about them. That's the problem.
Oh no! I'm just saying. But because we're talking about.
I'm just fucking around.
No,
anyway.
I know.
I don't. I'm not.
No, I've been. It's been quite life changing though. Again, because I feel like I'm relearning how to place it because there's cymbals that require you to play them rather than you've just got one. Certain other cymbal companies have, to me, got to a point where you either play them really loud or you play them medium loud, and that's about it. And I've been enjoying sort of getting into the thing of playing the Istanbuls. What's on that list?
Clapton.
Wow.
A little guitar player, a little known artist.
Well, all that happened. I mean, this was down to Doyle Bramhall.
Yeah, of course.
Really, Doyle and I, when he was rehearsing in London, was coming to my studio, doing some demos, and we demoed. He'd written this song, and he said, I got to find something for the middle eight, and I was sitting at the piano. I went, what about this? Blah blah blah. He went, oh, that's great. What's that? And I went, I don't know. So we finished off this song and played it to. He played it to Eric, and so a song that I wrote the middle of the bridge section or something, and I recorded a demo so that he could play it.
You have credit on that?
Yeah, it's not. That's the one. It's probably not the one that you've got because I then played on another record later. But yeah, so I just wrote this little thing. I was just curious,
like, what's that like royalty-wise? What's that like?
I mean, it wasn't a big song, and I don't know if that was a big record. It's little trickle here.
Little faucet on.
Little trickle here and there. I've done very little for somebody that used to write music a lot. I've done very little writing, and this is why I'm going back. I'm trying to cut everything back down to the small. I want to have a little Pro Tools set up, ready to go at home, so that I can sit and write. Because if I try and do it on my laptop, I just get sidetracked. I get very sidetracked on everything. So I have to use what I can to try and discipline myself to try and do things that I need to do, because I'm always just dying off all the time.
Because it's YouTube or checking out vintage drum sites or just something like that, or just
sitting and watching. I mean, I watch a lot of drumming. I watch a lot of drummers. There's so much information on drumming and great music. You can just sit and watch. I don't know, Stravinsky conducting the Firebird, and watching him conduct the Firebird is. Have you ever watched that?
I grew up with all that stuff in the house.
And then there's a great clip of Stravinsky. I mean, I'm a big Stravinsky fan. There's a great clip of Stravinsky in the 50s in a New York studio. I think it's Soldier's Tale. It's just fascinating. One, just the recording, but just him and the music. And the music is so out there. It's so incredible and out there.
How about Toscanini?
Sorry?
Toscanini, Arthur?
Don't know. Don't know.
Go ahead.
Did I answer the question properly, Dave?
About Eric Clapton?
Well, yeah. And then what happened? So I did that thing, and then I met Eric. He came and sat in with Cheryl. And I remember Stacey.
Were they dating at the time? Was that
no?
Did that happen or something? I don't know.
I think it may have happened before my time, though. Before I was in the band.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
None of my business.
Get a little Page Six once in a while. Go ahead.
I met him. I remember saying, "Oh, this is Jeremy. He wrote a song on the album," and I went, "Oh," and he went, "Oh, yeah, which one?" And I went, "I haven't got the foggiest idea. I'm sorry." And he just laughed his head off. I said, "I don't remember the title. I'm not even sure which album it's on. Really sorry." Just so embarrassed.
He loved it.
Oh, he didn't mind at all. Fortunately,
of course,
he just laughed. But then there was a record where I think Doyle and Justin Stanley had recorded most of it, and I think they either needed to recut something or replay something, and I just went over to Justin's house, and I happened to be here, and I just played on one or two tracks of whichever record. I don't know what the tracks are. I don't know what the record is. Sorry, it was a while ago. But yeah, I just played. I remember it was a J.J. Cale song, which was a big deal for me because I'm a big J.J. Cale fan, and I met that guy who was playing with Neil Young at. I did the bridge school thing with Cheryl once. And I met Carl T. Himmel. I don't know if you know. He's fantastic. He's such a great drummer, great guy. And Rick Marotta as well was on that. And I was a huge Rick Marotta fan, so I met Rick, who was the funniest, sweetest guy. So I got to hang with those two while I was doing that. But I just remember that Carl had told me that he'd played with J.J. Cale. I love those records, and playing on those records is insane. So that was to play on a track with J.J. Cale on Eric Clapton. That was a pretty big deal. Even though I didn't play if I'd played with them at the same time, that would have been the ultimate. But you know what? You can't. Yeah. To even be involved at any level is fantastic. Yeah.
Have there been gigs where you've gotten a call and you said, I just schedule? You're like, I just can't do it. Can't do it. I would love to do it.
Well, that was the second Tom Jones record I didn't do because I was actually out with Noel last time. But we've done a whole load more. I don't know when they're coming out, but actually Andy Fairweather-Low played guitar on those with.
Wow.
So it's basically Ethan, Andy Fairweather-Low, myself, Dave Bronze, the bass player, who sometimes plays with Eric as well.
It's very, very Clapton band, yeah.
Yeah, which was. That hasn't come out yet, but we did a whole load of stuff, maybe 20 to 30 songs over a 6-month period. We'd go in, just do a week, not for a record, but let's just record some songs in the same vein. And the most joyous, fun people, funny people, really. But when you get down to doing the work, really serious about it, but not in a sort of like. Just trying to find a good way to play it. You're just so lucky to be involved in any of those.
But has there been a gig? Has there been a call where you just thought, I wish I could fucking do this, and it just didn't? A loss.
Well, I actually, and I still don't quite know what happened. I auditioned for Beck in 1999, and I was actually working on a record out here, producing, because I've produced quite a few records in my time, even though I've had no success as a producer, but I love producing records. It's an enormous amount of work, but I do enjoy making a record. And I was making a record out here. Roger Manning said Beck's looking for Joey just, I don't know if he'd left or what's happening there, but they're looking for a new drummer. So I went and auditioned.
Was Lyle Workman in the band?
Well, when I auditioned, it was just Roger and Justin and a video camera. the video camera being Beck, and I just played with the backing tracks. This was the problem. I was in the studio all day. My audition was 12 o'clock at night in a rehearsal room in the valley somewhere, and they were totally cool about doing it. And we played for an hour, and they just said, right, Roger called me and said, right, you need to learn all of these 5 songs from Odelay, you need to learn this from these 2 songs from Mutations, and this one for the first record, and you have to nail every aspect of the changes of the groove, of the loop. And I said, well, I don't have any electronics or anywhere. He said, well, just do what you can to simulate what you hear. I'm like, okay, all right. Turn up with your own kit and just do
at midnight.
At midnight.
Why are we doing this?
So I wrote charts out. I actually had to write charts out because I can read. If I write stuff out. I can. It's the best way to know what's coming up. So I did it, and apparently the comment is that why has he got his head stuck to the left when he's playing? Beck didn't know that I actually was reading, and I just.
I thought you had
I'd heard from somebody through a friend of Roger's that they liked it, they liked what I was doing, and I kept going back to audition guitar players. So if I had a weekend off for about 2-week period, I played with Roger and Justin and guitar players. I don't know if Lyle was one of the guitar players because I didn't know Lyle at that point, but a lot of guitar players came in and auditioned for Beck with me just running. So I was getting to play the Odelay record, which was a huge amount of fun. And then I got asked they said, look, and I kept saying, Roger, when does this tour start? And he went, about 3 weeks. I went, I finished this record in 4. I can't do this. I didn't realise that it was, and I actually have to go back to England and do another record pretty much straight away. He went, oh, well, just, so I just carried on doing these auditions whenever I could. I couldn't do them all, but I just kept coming back and playing. And then eventually I actually did play those same songs with Beck in the room with the guitar player they'd chosen. And then I think Victor also did it, and Victor did the gig and played amazing, of course. Love Victor.
Victor didn't keep his head to the left.
No, he looked straight forward.
He put the charts on the tom.
Yeah.
In front of him.
Yeah. And I still don't know quite. I never know what happened. I mean, I just kept saying it's a bit weird. Yeah. Keep coming back to play with Beck, with the guys.
Yeah.
When I don't see how it's possible for me to do this, even though, and I think that was the one time where I actually thought, because that was a great gig. That was, I mean, and at that time particularly, I mean, I liked the Odelay and the Mutation record.
Oh, you know.
Probably those are my 2 favourite. So it was just, you know what? Hey, I got to play with them, and I got to play with him for a day. And
these Scientologists have their reasons.
Am I supposed to comment?
Not at all. Not at all. I'll take the heat.
Okay, yeah, it's your thing. No, it was great to just do that and have fun and play, And I don't think I even played particularly well on, half of them. I just kept getting called back. I'd listened to, I was into Beck already at that time.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was like, what a fantastic opportunity, even if I didn't do the gig, that I got to.
But that was really the only time.
I think that's a gig I really would have liked to.
Because obviously, I'm assuming you get calls all the time, and you're just saying.
I really wanted to do it, but I couldn't do it.
That was the only.
But
one.
I still got to play.
But I mean, that's the only gig that you missed out on that comes to mind as far as like.
Well, there's been gigs. There's been a few gigs where certain people have pushed for me to do it, and for whatever reason, it hasn't come about. There's a couple. I don't know what I mean. There was a point when somebody was pushing for me to do something, and I'm thinking of a couple. I'm just trying to think whether I should mention them.
You mean when Ben Montanch said you should be in the Heartbreakers?
No, that has never happened. And I love Steve Ferrani. There was a point, maybe Jeff Beck. There was a Jeff Beck point because I was playing with Tal, and I think there was a transition period, but we couldn't actually get it together for Jeff to come and play. There was just a period where it was, and I've met Jeff, and he's recorded at my studio, but again, it was an informal sort of fun, experimenting with a track idea, wasn't trying to get the drum gig or anything like that. But there was a period where I felt that maybe there might be an interest there, and I would have actually let's leave that one. Actually, I probably shouldn't put that one on. Actually,
really,
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, because I don't know. I mean, it probably did get a little bit awkward for Tal, I mean, I didn't do anything. What I'm saying is, I wasn't trying to get the gig.
Awkward.
I just heard.
Was it her and Vinny, or is that what we're talking about?
No.
What are we talking? Why awkward for Tal then?
Oh no! Vinny wasn't doing the gig at that point. This was. Well, I think Tal came back to do some gigs, and I think at that point we'd done a little bit of work together, and she liked my playing, and I think she wanted me to. She was suggesting me as an option for playing, and for whatever reason it didn't. I think Jeff had already decided he wanted to work with somebody else.
Okay.
So it's no big deal.
No big deal.
No, it was. It was no
reason to cut this.
No. I mean, I suppose I'm just saying. It was just one of those. You asked me a question, I'm going, well, that was a time where I thought I might get to play with Jeff.
Yeah.
And I like him, and he's a very funny guy, and obviously he's but it all works out how it's
yeah, it all works out.
I mean, I have connections with I'm so lucky that I know all these amazing musicians. Some of them just have become really good friends. I forget that they are who they're. Like even like Pino, for instance, is somebody I've known for a long time, done so much stuff with, and you just suddenly forget that who he is, because he's just the guy. There's a whole different relationship of just hanging out. But then you go, wow,
it's Pino.
Yeah,
Pino.
Yeah, and all the people I've mentioned is amazing.
Yeah,
what they can do and what they do, and aren't I lucky? I mean, I feel really lucky. But you when you're working with them, you sort of forget, or not even working with them, just hanging out with them. You forget that stuff, and you just get on with it, and then you go, wow. Listen to that record. You hear something that they've just played on, and go, it's amazing. Such a high level.
Yeah. I mean, it's. How much longer, by the way, do you have on this tour? I may ask you that. Noel Gallagher.
Hold on. We're touring till the end of July.
Okay. States?
No, we're doing States till I think it's June the 8th or something, and then we go to. We do the festivals, which is we're playing in Moscow, we're playing in Poland, we're playing in Denmark, France, loads in Italy, South Korea, Japan.
Yeah,
which we've already done this year. We've already been to South Korea and Japan once.
Hope you like flying.
Pardon?
I said I hope you like flying.
I do. I mean, no. I mean, I don't. But I don't mind. They look after us. We fly in a good way, and it's
the right way.
The right way, and I don't love flying. I don't. You forget about it when you're doing it all the time, because
you're doing it the right way too. That just.
Oh yeah, no. I mean,
we haven't done coach in years. Come on.
I'm lucky that I've pretty much hardly done it for quite a long time, and I don't think I'd last very long if I had to do a tour of
coach.
that. I mean, an hour's flight's fine, isn't it? But
come on.
An hour's okay.
We're not flying to South Korea, Coach.
No, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Not going to fucking happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
All right, my man.
Any managers out there thinking of hiring me for...
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
There's only one way. With Jeremy Stacey, it's going
Which means it's probably not going to happen, but...
Too bad. Get someone else.
Well, unfortunately, some of the time, that's what you have to...
Get someone else.
Get someone else, because...
Because that's how it is.
Yeah.
If you want Jeremy Stacey, we're flying first class.
Oh. I don't care about first class.
And let me just tell you
that's waste. I don't like wastage.
The black SUV that pulled up today to drop Jeremy off. I mean, the coffee almost came out of his nose on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The spit take. You almost had the spit take there.
Yeah, I know. I it's quite a strong reaction.
True Danny Thomas.
Well, you mean the hybrid car that I drove here?
I was just trying to make
the cheapest one. I
was trying to build you up that you had a driver who dropped you off and the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Let's not.
Let's pull it back in. And
let's keep it real because I think we're not at that level.
We're not there.
I'm not at that level.
I'm totally having fun.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
I've got a tour on. It's good. It's going okay. I mean, I that's the way
Yeah.
I never know what's going to happen. I really don't have. Yeah. I mean, while I'm doing Noel, the phone has stopped ringing. I'll go home.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll carry on not ringing. I just don't know, and I still get I still worry about am I going to carry on? People going to still be interested in me playing
tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean it's been a long time of consistent work.
Mm-hmm.
Probably almost 20 years now. I haven't really stopped working for about 20 years, which is unbelievable when I think of it. But I still never think that it's going to carry on. I just always just hope that somebody's going to like it, and maybe I'll get a call to have no sort of expectancy or certainty of doing anything else. So it's funny. I mean, but who knows?
You can always open a pub.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Like Steve Ronnie told me, it's too hard. You know how hard it is to run a pub?
Yeah, no, I agree with Steve completely about that.
It's hard work to run a pub. Yeah.
Really hard work. Yeah, I would imagine. And plus, I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a drinker or anything. I'm just.
He's a high flying bird, folks.
Yeah.
You are a high flying bird.
Okay. Well. Thank you.
Today, anyway.
Yeah, well, today I am. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm glad we did this.
No, I'm glad we did this. I'm trying to think back of all the things we've just talked about and think, have I said anything useful or interesting? But
I think so. Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you, my man. Thank you.
Cheers, Dave.
I did that. What? Do it.